the full-time mage. The extreme lightning. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 626, Sister Liuru arrives. Hearing this, Tang Mao restrained his killing intent. After all, he was not really here to wipe out the family. This is China, not a place where he can do whatever he wants. Moreover, it is not worth it for a Big Lee family. He came here just to leave a warning. Since you didn't make trouble for my wife, it's okay to give you a chance to live. Tang Mao continued, I came here today to remind you that when I'm not in Yuxunyu City, it does not mean that I will not pay attention to this place. If you want to compete, you'd better come to me openly. If you do this kind of mean behavior again, I promise that the next time you come to my door, you will not leave a single one of your Big Lee family. The retainers here, as well as Li Kuang, Li Dong and even the dying Li Kei, were extremely angry. But the other party was so powerful that, even if they were unwilling, they could do nothing. The most important thing is that, although Tang Mao came up, he did not kill anyone. At most, he was seriously injured. There was no chance to make a big fuss. Of course, Li Kuang naturally didn't want his family's disciples to be killed. After giving the necessary deterrence, Tang Mao once again stepped into the air and past the damaged high wall. At this time, he heard Li Kuang's furious voice behind him. Tang Mao, do you think our Dali family is a place you can break into whenever you want? You injured my children and just left like that? Why do you want to leave me to hold a farewell party for your Dali family? Tang Mao turned around and said. Li Kuang's face turned red with anger when he heard this. Master, forget it. It's just that the outer wall was damaged. It's nothing. Li Dong hurriedly persuaded. What do you mean by forget it? This guy is bullying our Dali family because there is no one. Li Kuang said angrily. Don't talk about your Dali family, even if it's your master behind you. The Mu family, I'm going to make a fuss. What can they do? Tang Mao said with disdain. You are so arrogant. Arrogant. Li Kuang was really convinced. In China, even those people didn't have such an arrogant attitude. How dare he? Tang Mao? Question mark? Do you think you can mess with our Mu family just because you want to? At this moment, a woman's voice came out. Muzumian, it's great that you're here. This Tang Mao is simply lawless. He not only doesn't take our Dali family seriously, but also doesn't take our Mu family seriously. If he dares to break into our Dali family like this today, he will step into the Mu family compound tomorrow. We must not let him leave like this. Li Kuang saw Muzumian appear and saw a savior. If you try to be so clever with me again, I don't mind going to your Mu family and brainwashing them. Tang Mao continued. I heard that the patriarch of your Mu family is a forbidden spell. After studying magic for so many years, I haven't experienced the joy of killing forbidden spells. Just now, seeing Muzumian, the savior, was full of hope. But after hearing what Tang Mao said, Li Kuang always felt that maybe even if Muzumian, the noisy hoof, came, it would be useless. Then you are very good. If you can defeat the head of my family, you, Tang Mao, and your Yuxunyu city will be able to walk sideways in the whole of China. Muzumian was not angry, but smiled charmingly. Muzumian, what are you doing here? Don't be so noisy. Tang Mao continued. I just want to ask you, how is my little Mu Bei? Muzumian obviously didn't come to block the road. Of course, she was also very self-aware. This road is not something she can stop just because she wants to. He doesn't like you. Don't even think about it. Tang Mao only felt a little interesting when she heard this. However, Mu Bei, who is always stuffy, should have no chance with such a charming woman. What's the difference between me? Muzumian said again. You ask Mu Bei about this. Why ask me? I haven't tried it. Tang Mao continued. Li Kuang behind him was about to explode. What's the situation with Muzumian? Question mark? You, a member of the Mu family, actually chatted with an enemy. Moreover, the other party made a scene in his own home. It was really chilling. Do you want to try? Muzumian suddenly said with a chuckle. Tang Mao had already dispersed from the Dark Realm, and the Shadow Evil Legion also dissipated. The next moment, he left directly. As a man with misophobia, he was not someone who could be compromised by everyone. Seeing that Muzumian was the kind of woman who had experienced many battles, he was too lazy to pay attention to her. Moreover, the woman around him was no worse than her. After giving a warning to the Dali family, Tang Mao returned to Yuxunyu City. I believe that with this warning, their little thoughts behind the scenes will be much less. Moreover, this matter will spread quickly. He didn't believe that there was really no news from above. After returning to Yuxunyu City, Tang Mao went straight to where Yushishi was. Since the mixed doubles of Apis and Yushishi, he has fallen in love with that small house. Well, the spirit moth is also very beautiful. Why didn't I discover it before? As expected, beauty needs to be discovered slowly. However, just when Tang Mao was about to go to Yushishi's place, he happened to meet the Liuru sisters who had just moved in. Liuru had said a long time ago that she would come to Yuxunyu City with her sister, but for some reason, she never came. Why did you come just now? After seeing the two of them, Tang Mao naturally couldn't pretend not to see them. And seeing this, Apis, who was brought with her, also hurriedly sneaked away. My sister is not afraid that you will be in trouble. Liuru curled her lips and said. Hearing this, Tang Mao looked at Liuru's sister. After seeing Tang Mao, Liu Zion was a little shy and timid and said, actually, we are also good in the Magic City. Let's stay here. If we don't move away now, we will have to leave in the future. The Magic City will sooner or later attract the attack of the Siren Army. The safety level there is really not as good as here in Yuxunyu City. In fact, even if Liuru didn't bring it up, Tang Mao would have asked them to move here directly. After all, Yuxunyu City is the truly safe place. Baksha, Black Snake, Moon Phoenix, Balagard, and Inumian's clansmen. Even when I'm not here, this place is comparable to the territories of the domestic clans. In fact, even the territories of some domestic clans may not be safer than here. For example, the Mu clan was broken into by Emofan and Muningsu, right? Chapter 627. Update. In the villa area on the mountain of Yuxunyu City, Tang Mao personally arranged a place for the two sisters to live. Although Muningsu knew about this, she just turned a blind eye. She also had some understanding of Liuru. Well, a very pitiful girl. After all, she and her sister were ordinary people, but they provoked the Blood Clan. In the end, if it weren't for Tang Mao's appearance, they might have become a pair of enslaved vampires. Of course, she didn't think that Tang Mao would help them for no reason, which was not in line with his usual style. Although Tang Yu said that she would tell her if she found Tang Mao dishonest, she couldn't really go and tell on him. Damn scum, I thought you just said you didn't want us to move in. Judging from your performance, you're not bad. After Liuru simply packed up, she sat on Tang Mao's lap and said with her hands around his neck, how could it be, am I that kind of person? Tang Mao would naturally not refuse someone who came to his door. Reaching out to hold her waist, Liuru has become more and more stunning since she became a vampire. Like Yushishi, she has developed in a colorful way towards the direction of a little fairy, of course, especially with Liu Zion. The two sisters are more than two. Should I give you a reward? Liuru sniffed Tang Mao's neck and said softly, you want to suck my blood? Tang Mao looked at her like this and thought silently in his heart. This doesn't look like a reward, it's clearly like she wants to bite herself. Okay, however, at some times, men are just doing. Even if you know you're going to suffer a loss, but the softness on your legs is so exciting. Liuru was not polite either. The next moment, she bit Tang Mao's neck. This taste that she had missed for a long time made Liuru addicted unconsciously. However, Liuru is definitely the most obedient now. Liu Zion, who was arranging her belongings, came out after hearing Tang Mao's call. When she saw that Liuru had already arranged them, she understood what Tang Mao meant. However, it was broad daylight. What if someone came? Liu Zion wanted to turn around and go back to the house, but before she thought of running, Tang Mao had already brought Liuru to her side. At least, only the twins could do it. The two little fairies like Apis and Yushishi did not have this ability. Of course, it was not that they were not good, but their heights were somewhat uneven. But Liu and Liu Zion were really perfect. So perfect that, even if he had to pay the price of blood every time, he still couldn't let go. On the other side, in Yushishi's hut, Apis, seeing the woman coming in, Yushishi was stunned for a moment, and then said, "Why are you here? You don't welcome me." Although Apis said so, she didn't mind at all, and walked straight to the newly born spirit moth to watch. She really liked these little creatures. Moreover, after communicating with Tangmao and Yushishi for a long time, she found that, as long as she was not angry, these little guys were no longer afraid of her. If it was the old her, she would feel very embarrassed. But now it is different. She likes this feeling. Moreover, the little spirit moths she raised are already very big. No, Yushishi was a little embarrassed, and then looked outside again. Don't look, that damn bastard won't come to trouble us today, otherwise I wouldn't come here. Apis naturally knew what Yushishi was looking at, so she spoke. How do you know? Yushishi asked in disbelief. Although Muningsu is indeed peerless, she can't stand the advantage of the number of these two little goblins. According to Yushishi's understanding of Tangmao, he can't help but bully them. He met two identical little vampires on the way here. Do you think he still has the energy to trouble us? Apis pouted. Yushishi was relieved when she heard this. Apis felt provoked. Exclamation mark. After all, they are all female creatures. Even if they say they don't care, it is still quite shocking to suddenly find that others are better than themselves. Why do you look like you have survived a disaster? Every time I see you, you are very happy, right? Apis said again. In addition, Apis herself is not a person, so there is nothing to be embarrassed about saying. Who is happy? Yushishi said shyly. In fact, I feel that, as long as it is moderate, it is also very exciting. Apis continued. But after many times, Apis feels that this is a kind of enjoyment. Tangmao is like her servant. Although this servant is a little presumptuous, no matter the process or the result, she feels that she only needs to enjoy the happiness. At that time, she did not have any experience. Even Apis knew that Tangmao's idea was this, and she should have made herself fragrant for him to pick earlier. Are you ashamed? Yushishi was a little dissatisfied with Apis's idea. What's there to be ashamed of? Besides, I didn't see you resist that time, did I? Yushishi was speechless for a moment. Did she not resist? She was clearly afraid that she would be attacked more fiercely after resisting. After all, life is like that. Since you can't resist, just choose to enjoy it. Forget it. You don't understand. Yushishi shook her head and continued. I heard from Xiao Moth Phoenix that it seemed that a powerful force appeared in the direction of Xiamen. Did you encounter any trouble? There is no trouble, but now I know why this bastard is so arrogant. I didn't expect that he still has such a terrifying power. Even if my queen mother encounters him, I'm afraid she is not his opponent at all. Apis said with a little emotion. To be honest, she always thought that Tangmao's greatest reliance should be his thunder magic that destroys everything. Later, it should be the fire magic. But now it seems that those things that look like trump cards are not worth mentioning in front of this real trump card. Chapter 628 Muningsu's Proposal. The most important thing is that this trip to Xiamen, Tangmao's shadow system has been greatly improved, and she even has a shadow demon whose aura is not weaker than hers. Moreover, this guy from the dark plane is simply abnormal. He can even summon so many black demon soldiers. This ability is really coveted. You mean, the person who burst out that terrifying power is Tangmao? Yushishi was also stunned and asked in disbelief. Speaking of which, she didn't know that Tangmao had another devil's trump card. At this time, in the villa area of the mountain villa, looking at the Liu sisters who were stacked there, Tangmao asked, why do I feel that you two seem to have become stronger again? What are you doing? Move. Liu complained dissatisfiedly. After Tangmao said oh and moved, Liu said again, yes, I have become stronger. None of Ding Yumi and Zelda's are my opponents. It's not surprising that you train every day, but the key is why your sister is the same as you? Tangmao was a little confused. As for Liu Zion, she is a typical housewife every day. How come doing housework can improve strength? This is too outrageous, right? Of course, this is also related to their demon bloodline. After all, without their own bloodline, they would not have the opportunity to be so powerful, right? Who told you that my sister does nothing every day? We have training every night, okay? Without waiting for Liu Zhan to speak, Liu Ru said again. Tang Mao looked at Liu Zhan lying there and letting Liu Ru press her down and said, "Why do you also want to practice? I want to give you some help." Tang Mao paused. This gentle sister next door is really lovable. I never expected her to become so powerful, but I didn't expect that this unintentional planting would become a shade. Thinking of this, Tang Mao turned Liu Ru and Liu Zhan over with the power of space. Liu Ru was still talking just now, and suddenly she was dumbfounded. Liu Zhan said awkwardly, "My sister is not heavy, you have spoiled this girl into this, and you still spoil her?" Tang Mao said this at us feebly. "You damn scum, my sister spoils me, what does it have to do with you, you?" When Liu Ru wanted to say something, she was covered by Liu Zhan. Look at Liu Zhan's operation. One word, absolute. When it was late at night, Tang Mao settled them and left. Not to mention, although the Raoji ammo tasted delicious, it was consumed very quickly. And just when Tang Mao came out, she saw Mu Ningxu appeared here at some point. "Ningxu, when did you come?" Standing outside in the middle of the night. Tang Mao looked at her in confusion. "After returning to Yuxunyu City, I was always not so vigilant. Just like now, it was quite embarrassing." Fortunately, Tang Mao was thick-skinned enough. "I have something to talk to you soon," Mu Ningxu said in a very indifferent voice. "What do you have to talk about in the middle of the night? Let's go back to the house and talk." Tang Mao wanted to reach out and pull Mu Ningxu's hand, but she avoided it. "You," without waiting for Tang Mao to speak, Mu Ningxu said again, "I came in the afternoon." "Ahem. What's the hurry?" Mu Ningxu did not speak, but said, "Let's go back to the house." After the two returned to Mu Ningxu's house, Mu Ningxu still did not speak first, but asked Tang Mao to go and wash up. Obviously, this woman who doesn't talk much also cares about some details. After washing up, Tang Mao came out. After Mu Ningxu saw him come out, she was about to speak, but when she saw him, it was too much. She immediately took a bathrobe and threw it on him. Tang Mao shrugged and said, "Anyway, I won't wear it later." Ahem. This bathrobe is of good quality. After seeing Mu Ningxu glaring, Tang Mao felt that it was necessary to cooperate. After all, she didn't have any bad intentions. She was just afraid that she would catch a cold. The sea area near Phenio City has become increasingly restless recently, and the number of sea monsters attacking here has increased a lot. After seeing Tang Mao tidy up, Mu Ningxu spoke again. "Recently, for some reason, batches of sea monsters have been attacking the coastline of Phenio City. Of course, there is nothing wrong with Yuxunyu City, but they now belong to Phenio City. If something really happens in Phenio City, it will not be good for them. Then what do you want me to do?" If it was just a small group of sea monsters attacking, Mu Ningxu would not come to find him. Since he came to find him, it means that the matter seems to be a little serious. "I want to discuss with you whether we can let Baksha or Zuansh station there," Mu Ningxu said bluntly. "Whether it is Baksha or Zuansh, as long as one of them is there, these little sea monsters will not dare to come here to make trouble." "That won't work. Although we are also planned in Phenio City. Phenio City is Phenio City, and Yuxunyu City is Yuxunyu City." Tang Mao shook his head and rejected it. Seeing that Mu Ningxu seemed to want to persuade him, Tang Mao had to explain. The last time, the black snake was seriously injured, and now it is in the molting period, so it is extremely weak now. Although Baksha has recovered, it is the only one left to guard the periphery of Yuxunyu City. If it is asked to guard Phenio City, it means that we will be in trouble next. In fact, the only ones who can really deter the sea monster are Baksha and the black snake. After all, the little moon moth phoenix is a feather monster. In the sea, its effect is not very big. Therefore, if Baksha is transferred away from Yuxunyu City, then the coastline of Phenio City will no longer be attacked, but attacks from all over Yuxunyu City. Mu Ningxu is not a person who doesn't understand things. After hearing Tang Mao's explanation, he had to give up. I know that the damage to Phenio City is not a good thing for Yuxunu City, but there are more than just our family in Phenio City. The interests of the Dali family are also here. At most, we can each send some people to guard together. Tang Mao said again. In addition to the Dali family, there are also many small clans here. After all, after the coastline fell, some families that depended on the sea suffered huge losses in assets. They were definitely not the only ones who were afraid of the coastline. Muningsu thought about it and thought that this proposal was okay. Yuxunu City actually didn't need too many people. The moths trained by Yushishi were also very powerful. With their guard, Ding Yumian's clansmen, Umoth Phoenix and Bora, some people could be allocated to guard the coastline of Phenio City. Chapter 629 Heading to Daban. Okay, take a break. We can contact the municipal officials of Phenio City tomorrow to see what they mean. If they can't persuade these people, at most we will give up the resources of the coastline. Tang Mao said nonchalantly. After all, Yuxunu City has never relied on the coastline to survive. Their mineral veins have not been fully mined, and the cooperation with the Dongfang family and the Mushi family is enough to cover their large living expenses. Moreover, the extra income can still be used to create some rewards for those who have made contributions. Are you okay? Muningsu looked at Tang Mao and said with a little distrust. Rough Tang Mao was really going to take a break. But Muningsu's words made him feel like he had suffered a 1000-point critical hit. I think it's necessary for you to get to know me again. Tang Mao pulled her and said. Without giving Muningsu too many opportunities to speak, the lights disappeared unknowingly. The next day, Tang Mao was still dazed in the morning when she received a call from Japan's Mochizuki Chiksen. This little hoof has completely changed since she was in Venice. Yes. That tsundere she had before was completely gone, and now she was just a clingy girlfriend. But unfortunately, she was about 4, 5, 6, or 7 years older than Tang Mao, and without that tsundere personality, what fun would that be? However, despite all the dissatisfaction, Tang Mao still said gently, did you miss me so early in the morning? Yes, I did. Mochizuki Chiksen was not reserved at all, and then complained, you damn ghost, I didn't find you. Didn't you know to contact me? I'm busy. I haven't been back to China for a long time. Tang Mao said again. Really? Mochizuki Chiksen seemed to be very distrustful and deliberately dragged out her voice. Of course, if I were in China, would I not want to sneak across to see you? Mochizuki Chiksen snorted when she heard this, and then said, but why did I hear from your student Ko Kinkin that you have been in your country recently? Tang Mao was stunned. It was a bit careless to forget about it because of Ko Kinkin, the silly girl. However, who is he? Can he be embarrassed by this? Then he changed the subject and said, do you have something to call me? If it's nothing, can't I find you? Mochizuki Chiksen's voice was full of grievance. Yes, after all, it cost this arrogant oof a lot of money. He couldn't be too heartless. I have taught your little apprentice a lot of knowledge. How do you want to thank me? Mochizuki Chiksen said again. Isn't it too formal for you to say that? Tang Mao said very unyieldingly. We are an old couple, and we still need to thank each other. Don't give me that. Come to Art to find me tomorrow. No, why do you want me to go? Don't you know that I have been busy looking for totems? Tang Mao said helplessly. He had no intention of going to R. I know, and I also know a clue to your Chinese totem. Since you are not interested, forget it. After Mochizuki Chiksen finished speaking, he hung up the phone directly. Are you serious? Hello. Looking at the phone, the call had already ended. Tang Mao was so confused. Then he called again, but no one answered. This little hoof inexplicably also has a high IQ, since he can think of this method to make an appointment with himself. Then, Tang Mao called Ko Kinkin again, wanting to confirm the truth, but unfortunately, Ko Kinkin's phone was also unreachable. Tang Mao had no choice but to get up. He was still quite concerned about this news. Whether it was a dead or alive totem, it would always be of some help to him. And if he wanted to continue on his path, he would definitely be inseparable from the totem beast. Since there was news, he naturally couldn't miss it. Tang Mao limped out of the room with his waist, and then went to Emma Gao's residence. How could such a hard job be done without a little brother? But unfortunately, after Tang Mao came to Mo Fan's residence, he found out that this guy went to the Parthenon yesterday. It was outrageous. And then Tang Mao found out that Zhao Manian, that bastard, had also gone with him. Tang Mao could understand that Mo Fan was going to the Parthenon. But why did you, Zhao Manian, go there? Did you have an appointment with a girl or something? Since neither of them was there, Tang Mao had to choose someone else. As for the person, it was naturally Mu Bei, the old sullen guy. Anyway, he was just sitting around doing nothing here, so why not take him out for a stroll? After learning that Tang Mao was going to Xiaoyu said that she also wanted to go out for some experience, so she also joined the trip. It had been quite a long time since Xiaoyu had reached the higher level. Now, seeing them stepping into the super level one by one, she felt that she couldn't stay like this any longer. Although Munix also agreed to buy a Stacy vein for her. However, this thing is not to mention how precious it is. It is difficult to buy it, even if you have money. In addition, Yuxu New City is not as unavailable as it used to be, so she joined this trip. Tang Mao naturally did not refuse. Although Xiaoyu could not eat, it was nice to take her with her to pleasing the eyes. Because the news was very important, Tang Mao and the other two set out at noon. Even though he still had a little backache, he still had no intention of stopping for the night. He booked a flight and flew to Daban. After arriving at Daban, Tang Mao and the other two rushed to Xuanshao Pavilion. Of course, after arriving, he sent a message to the arrogant Mochizuki Chixin. When they arrived at Xuanshao Pavilion, they saw Mochizuki Chixin and Ko Kinkin, who were wearing kimonos, waiting here. Before Tang Mao could make a fuss, Mochizuki Chixin said, "I thought you would come tomorrow. Do you miss me? Let's go. Go in first. I have prepared toiletries and food for you." Mochizuki Chixin didn't give Tang Mao a chance, and continued. As soon as she finished speaking, she twisted her hips and led the way in front of Tang Mao. It was self-evident what this woman was thinking. "Teacher, you are really amazing. You don't know that after I said you were my teacher, Sister Kyankson treated me very well." Ko Kinkin looked at Tang Mao with an admiring look. "Get lost, you ungrateful bastard," Tang Mao said without any appreciation. Ko Kinkin said again, "Teacher, I was wrong." Seeing her pitiful appearance, he was really angry and finally had to follow them in. Of course, on the way to Xuanshao Pavilion, Tang Mao confirmed with Ko Kinkin about the totem, and Ko Kinkin also told him everything she knew, showing her good behavior. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 630, Not a Good Person. According to what Ko Kinkin said, it seems that Mochizuki Kyankson really discovered the location of the totem. Of course, the totem was not discovered by her, but by someone from the Asian Magic Association Sulu, who discovered the existence of the totem beast, and she just got the news. If it was someone else, it would be a bit suspicious. But Sulu is a fool. Tang Mao thinks that this kind of thing may be true. Sulu's obsession with totem beasts is beyond doubt. If the Black Dragon Emperor succeeds, he will naturally not pay attention to the totem beast, but without the Black Dragon Emperor, he naturally needs a stronger contract beast to help him. Of course, if this dog thing knows about some other solitary emperor demon, and happens to have a way to deal with the other party, he naturally wants the emperor level demon. As for why he doesn't provoke the Black Dragon again, that's because the arrangement of a formation is not an easy thing. It was successful last time, but this time, Sulu didn't have to doubt that they would be immediately discovered by the Black Dragon Emperor and torn to pieces. Although Wangai Kyankson did a bit of a sloppy job, the arrangement was still in place. At least compared to the first time, when they came here with Tang Mao, Mu Bei and Xiaoyu were treated as VIPs. They both felt that these little Japanese were very hospitable. Of course, Ko Kinkin, who knew the situation, wanted to say why, but seeing that Tang Mao didn't mean to speak, she thought it was better to keep silent. "Can you tell me the news you got now?" After eating and drinking, Tang Mao looked at Wang Kayangsen and said again, I don't know if she did it on purpose, but today's kimono always feels a little exposed. It's about to come out. It makes him inexplicably dry. Of course, after experiencing the pain of being so stubborn last night, Tang Mao felt that he needed to keep a low profile. Things that are good for the body and mind can't continue uninterrupted. Button up your collar, he said reluctantly. Mochizuki Chiksen, who was sitting next to Tang Mao, was stunned. She didn't have too many thoughts. She just thought that Tang Mao said that because there were other men present. Only you can see from this position. Although Mochizuki Chiksen did as she was told, she still explained softly. Tang Mao was speechless. Who the hell cares about this? Exclamation mark. Of course, when Mochizuki Chiksen was talking, he also glanced at Mubei. Mubei still kept silent and ate the food in his bowl. Can you tell me now what you know? Tang Mao reached out from below and said. Seeing this, Mochizuki Chiksen snorted softly, but still moved her button moved closer before saying, a few days ago, the subordinates of Sulu from the Asian Magic Association came here to seek help from our military department. It is said that there seems to be a demon in the volcanic archipelago outside the Anji of Kyoto, which is their hunting target. And I happened to overhear that it was the ancient totem of your China. Is Sulu here? Tang Mao asked. If Sulu also came, he still needed to consider whether to go. After all, Sulu is probably going to hate himself now, right? And his demon system is still cooling down. Although there is a Shadow Evil Lord in the Black Legion, plus the Snow Girl, the Flame Princess and Zorohei, he is absolutely invincible in the superclass. But, Sulu's spell is forbidden. The most important thing is that Apis seems to have reached the molting period recently, so this time she did not come with them, but stayed in the country. Not sure. Mochizuki Chiksen shook her head. She just knew that the people who came here for help were Sulu's subordinates. If you can't figure out such a small thing, what else can you do? Tang Mao curled his lips and said. Yes, Wang Kayangsen didn't mind Tang Mao's ridicule at all, and responded softly. Gurgle. After hearing this, Tang Mao swallowed his saliva unconvincingly. It was as if he had never tasted it. But in fact, in the morning, he was still a little Xiaoyu, who was sitting on the other side, looked at the two people with some contempt. Humph, Japanese women are really shameless. After hearing Xiaoyu's muttering, Mubei had a different opinion and said, it's because our patriarch likes to mess around with women. No man is a good thing. Xiaoyu continued. Mubei's mouth twitched slightly. What does this have to do with him? He is a stuffy guy. This is simply a person sitting at the table and the pot comes from the sky. Why, am I wrong? Xiaoyu looked at Mubei and said. That strong and domineering personality made Mubei speechless for a while. He even felt that he couldn't afford to offend her. In the end, Mubei lowered his head and started gnawing his bones. Before dinner was over, Tang Mao was already in a state of rage. Then, he followed Mochizuki Kayangsen and left here. Mochizuki Kayangsen was not at the stage of a little girl like Muningsu and the others. Are you putting a hat on me? Tang Mao said in some confusion. Why don't you just go to hell? When she heard what Tang Mao said, Mochizuki Kayangsen was immediately unhappy. It's okay if they don't meet, but when they meet, they're a strained heart. Can't I study the short video by myself? Mochizuki Kayangsen pouted, and then said, besides, don't you like to listen to my Mandarin? Before Mochizuki Kayangsen could speak, Tang Mao quickly reached out and covered her mouth. Are you kidding? If he keeps talking, will he be able to follow the military commander Gaomu here to the place where the totem beast is tomorrow? And Mochizuki Kayangsen seemed determined to make him surrender. After moving to the bed, he would never look back. He did the same. The next morning, Xiaoyu, Mubei and Kaokin were waiting in front of the house. When they saw Tang Mao, the three of them were slightly stunned. Do you still know what we are here for? Looking at Tang Mao's appearance, Xiaoyu immediately said with disgust and contempt. I really don't know how a man who doesn't know how to be decent in this kind of life can make Muningsu so devoted. You know nothing. The main person hasn't taken any action yet. Why are we in a hurry? Tang Mao immediately retorted. Xiaoyu obviously didn't believe this. At this time, Wangai Kyankson came out wearing a tights, and her beautiful curves were almost perfectly displayed. I have to say that sometimes, wearing clothes is more tempting than not wearing clothes. This woman doesn't look like a good person, no matter how you look at it. This is the feeling of not stopping until she kills herself. Exclamation mark. Compared with Tang Mao, Wangai Kyankson is refreshed, and you can see it from her face. The skin feels a lot more tender. Chapter 631 Four-Eyed Seagull. Here's the armor you asked for. After Wangai Kyankson came out, he did not forget to take out the black robe prepared last night for Tang Mao. There was no way Sulu was going to hate him to death, so Tang Mao felt that it was necessary to keep a low profile. Although this black robe could not have any great hiding effect, it could still prevent people from noticing him when paired with his own dark magic. Moreover, Sulu was a nobody, and he would obviously not be too interested in an unknown person. As for Xiaoyu, Mu Bei and Ko Kinkin, they could be called students of Wangai Kyankson, and they followed the army of Shuangshao Pavilion to experience some experience. When they arrived at the gathering place, Gao Mu, the military commander of Shuangshao Pavilion, had already arrived here with his assembled subordinates. He brought a total of 50 mages, and each of them was a high-level magician. Judging from the aura of these people, it was obvious that their strength belonged to the middle and upper class among ordinary mages. Tang Mao was sure that the military commander here was willing to send so many people to help regardless of Shuangshao Pavilion, and this must be for Sulu. And the reason why the military commander Gao Mu did not set out seemed to be that he was waiting for Mochizuki Chiksen. Chiksen, you are here. When Gao Mu saw Mochizuki Chiksen wearing it, he suddenly felt a little different. That look was full of aggression. Even though he deliberately hid it, it was obviously discovered by Tang Mao. Although Mochizuki Chiksen was disgusted by the other party's eyes, there was no way. The totem seemed very important to Tang Mao, so she could only endure it for the time being. Gao Mu simply asked Tang Mao about the origins of several people, but he was actually absent-minded. Because, in his eyes, there was only Mochizuki Chiksen. He had no chance of succeeding in Shuangshao Pavilion, but this time the mountains were high and the roads were long, and Mochizuki Chiksen came to the door herself, so he didn't mind cultivating a good relationship with Mochizuki Chiksen. This kind of beauty, I don't know how long he has been greedy for it, but as the saying goes, what you can't get is the most beautiful. Moreover, for some reason, in this year, Mochizuki Chiksen has become more and more charming, just like the young lady next door. He is constantly giving him great impact. Of course, he didn't waste too much time talking nonsense here. After all, this time he was going to work for Sulu, the chief of the Asian Magic Association. If he did a good job, it could almost be said that he would ascend to heaven in one step. As long as things were done well, and Sulu appreciated them, even if he didn't have any bad intentions. Whether Mochizuki Chiksen was round or flat, didn't it all depend on his mood? Afterwards, together with Tang Mao and his party, a total of 56 people set off for the volcanic archipelago. When they set off again, General Gao Mu summoned a four-clawed magic eagle of the commander level, carrying everyone away from here very quickly. Over the sea. General Gao Mu, is it really okay for us to fly so recklessly in the territory of the Feather Demon? His deputy asked in the well. What we need now is to move forward at full speed. Listen to me. As long as this mission is completed beautifully, this general will never treat you unfairly. After General Gao Mu painted a big pie, he said, it's just a group of feather monsters. What's there to be afraid of? As long as they dare to show up, I will let the Shineling beasts kill them all. General, you are mighty. General, you are mighty. Because the other party spoke in bird language, Tang Mao and the others didn't know what they were saying, and Mochizuki Kyankson didn't explain. After all, her students, shouldn't they be from R himself can't understand our language. Even if Gao Mu's sperm is in his brain, he will notice something is wrong. Oh you oh you oh you. Oh you oh you oh you. At this moment, suddenly there was a sound in the sky not far away. After everyone looked over, they suddenly found that there were thousands of three-eyed seagull monsters in the air about 1,000 meters away. It seems that, because they saw this group of humans crossing the line, this group of seagull monsters came forward to punish them. When they approached, they each flapped their wings, and then suddenly, streams of water sprayed out from the calm sea. The target was naturally this Commander level 4 Clawed Demon Eagle. HMPH, you ignorant thing, line up and kill quickly. Gaomu looked at the group of monsters in front of him, but he was not afraid at all. After all, a group of general level monsters, let alone him, even the group of elite mages under his command, could easily kill them in seconds. After hearing Gaomu's order, the 50 military mages immediately prepared for battle. Thunder strikes the top. After everyone was ready, Gaomu gave an order. Boom boom, 15 or 16 thunder mages immediately drew the thunder star map. Although it was only a mid-level magic, the power was increased several times when so many high-level thunder mages performed it. As the thunderbolts landed on the bodies of the bird demons, they immediately began to crash in batches. The 4-clawed demon eagle also floated its wings and easily dissolved the opponent's water column magic. After watching his subordinates kill hundreds of them with one move, Gaomu smiled with satisfaction. He also did not forget to look at Mochizuki Chixon and said, "Don't worry, Chixon, where Gaomu is, I can take you to explore even higher realms." Haha. General Gaomu is really powerful. Mochizuki Chixon responded with a smile. Gaomu didn't care. Anyway, for Mochizuki Chixon, he just liked her beauty. Hahaha. However, hearing Mochizuki Chixon's fake praise still made Gaomu very happy. After seeing Gaomu start to be proud, Tangmao looked around again. A group of general level demons provoked a leader level demon. If there was no sense of numerical suppression, it must be that there was a leader level demon among this group of three-eyed seagulls. This group of three-eyed seagull monsters came to attack their group of magicians. Definitely not because of the problem of numbers. Oh. At this moment, behind the 1,000 three-eyed seagull monsters, a four-eyed seagull monster emerged. According to the demon records in the magic book, as long as this kind of demon grows 5 eyes, it must be a monarch level creature. Although the one in front of him only has 4 eyes open, Tangmao always feels that the other party's demonic aura is almost monarch level. Tangmao noticed that the father of the three-eyed seagull monsters had come out, and Gaomu naturally noticed it. He seemed to take these demons lightly, but dealing with demons for many years, how could he not be vigilant at all? After seeing this four-eyed seagull monster, Gaomu hurriedly summoned his monarch level contract beast Shineling Beast. This Shineling Beast has a huge beast head like a tiger, but has grey wings on its back. When the wings are spread out, they are about 20 to 30 meters long, even more majestic than the wings of the four-eyed sea monster in front of him. You guys take care of the little ones. There's something wrong with this four-eyed seagull. After Gaomu summoned his contracted beast, he jumped directly on its back, left the order, and rushed towards the other party. Chapter 632, Small Demon Empire, Rewards and Extra Updates. After watching their battle in an orderly manner, Tangmao was too lazy to pay attention. It was obvious that he didn't need to take action here, and each of these military mages was no pushover. And because Gaomu had dealt with the demon that seemed to be a monarch, Mochizuki Chixon moved her plump body in the tights, leaned next to Tangmao and said, "He has thoughts about me. Don't you have anything to say? You also said that it's just a thought." Tangmao said in a light voice. "Then you don't care?" Mochizuki Chixon asked, somewhat dissatisfied. "I care. When we get there, I'll kill him." Tangmao wouldn't care? Question mark. The other party wanted to have sex with his woman. If he didn't have a temper, he would still be the one. "But what do you mean, little hoof? Who are you showing off to by wearing this?" Tangmao continued with dissatisfaction. "Going to the wild. Do you still want me to wear a kimono?" Mochizuki Chixon responded. "Why, you don't have any other clothes." "Yes, but don't you like anything except these two?" While the two were chatting, Gaomu and his men defeated these little feather monsters. Obviously, these people still have some fighting power. However, after all, these seagull monsters are too weak. As Gaomu's contracted beast fought with the opponent, the four-eyed seagull was at most a sub-monarch. It may not even have cultivated to that level. In this case, it would be a shame to deal with the orthodox monarch. Gaomu still had a mission to accomplish, so he didn't think about continuing to kill them all, and returned to the body of the four-clawed magic eagle. Kayangsan, don't worry, I'm here. No matter what kind of feather monster it is, it won't bother you. As soon as Gaomyu came back, he looked at Mochizuki Kayangsan. His eyes really didn't leave the place that was about to come out, which meant that this place was not suitable for anything. If this were to be changed to a place where there was no one, General Gaomyu felt that, even if it was a beast once, it would be worth it. Although Mochizuki Kayangsan didn't like it, he could only choose to endure it first. He said with a smile, "It's really reassuring to come out with General Gaomyu, of course. After this mission is over, if you want to go out and play, I can take you with me at any time." Gaomyu continued, "Thank you, General Gaomyu, but I hope there will be another chance by then." Mochizuki Kayangsan still responded with a smile. Of course, at the end, there was a hint of coldness in her tone. But obviously, Gaomyu was thinking about the scene of her crying and begging for mercy, and didn't pay any attention to it at all. After a day and a night of flying, they finally arrived at the edge of the volcanic archipelago. After they arrived here, they saw that there were already 40 or 50 mages here. Moreover, Tang Mao saw a lot of old acquaintances. Among these people, most of them were naturally those who had previously surrounded the Black Dragon Emperor with Sulu. Of course, there were also many new faces among them, but compared with the last Linoop, this time it felt a bit weak. The number of superclass mages should not exceed 20, and the rest are all high-level mages. More than 20 superclass mages. This is already a very powerful Linoop, but Sulu is at least a continent-level chief, and his subordinates are like this, which is a bit boring, right? As for these high-level mages, although their auras are not weak, they should be only a little stronger than those high-level mages brought by Gaomyu. Lord Damo, I brought 50 of my most elite high-level mages. Please ask Lord Sulu what he wants. As soon as Gaomyu arrived, he went to see a senior official of the Magic Association. Compared with his previous arrogant look, he was now a typical lapdog. The cautious kneeling and licking look really made people feel disgusted. Tang Mao was quite curious. Even if Sulu failed last time, he would not have no one to use. After all, Sulu's name is still very loud in the international community. There are definitely many people who want to be his lackeys. However, he was curious, so he couldn't go up and ask. If Sulu found out, he would be the first to hunt for a totem of chicken feathers. At this time, Damo had already brought Gaomyu, the lackey, to see Sulu. "Are you Gaomyu?" Sulu asked calmly, after glancing at the person in front of him. The aura of a superior was immediately revealed. Yes, I'm Gaomyu. This operation is very important to me. If you can successfully subdue this ancient totem beast of China, you will definitely be reused in the future. But if you retreat at the last minute, don't blame me for being ruthless. Sulu said bluntly. Gaomyu felt a little pressured when he heard it. However, he was already in a difficult situation. Please rest assured, as long as you say a word, I will go through fire and water without hesitation. Although Gaomyu hesitated in his heart, he immediately expressed his determination. Very good, I will assign all my high-level mages to you for dispatch, and your task is also simple, which is to be responsible for the tens of thousands of feather monsters around it. Sulu said again. In fact, what he said was a bit conservative. No one knew that there would be a huge small demon empire in the volcanic archipelago of Japan. As for the fact that he knew there was a totem here, it was actually because one of his subordinates came here and discovered it by chance. But the other party seemed to be controlled, and his report was not very clear. In addition, Sulu's thoughts about his contracted beast made him come here in person. But who knew that there would be so many demons after coming here? However, at least the information was true. There was indeed a creature that seemed to be a totem here. The reason why Sulu knew it was a totem was because he had a record of such beasts in various countries. As for where he got it, no one knew. If Sulu dealt with the totem creature alone, he could only entangle it at most. To be honest, the people he hurriedly called in were only 4 or 5 super level ones who could get started. There were still countless demons left here, so naturally someone needed to be responsible. This was why Gaomyu had the opportunity to work for Sulu. Of course, no matter whether Sulu succeeds or not, the person who comes to serve may have to pay the price of his life. After all, the entire volcanic archipelago has now been developed into a small demon empire. The tens of thousands he just mentioned are actually reduced by dozens of times. PS. I just came back today, and the update may be a little late in the evening. If you can't wait, go to bed early and watch it tomorrow. Chapter 633, Cannon Fodder. General Gaomu was also a man who had experienced many ups and downs. He also knew that the threshold for making friends with Sulu was very high. But since he had already come, it proved that he had thought it through. Moreover, what kind of things with benefits are risk-free? If you want to go higher and further in your career, you have to pay what you should pay. After the agreement was made, Gaomu came back. Miss Kayangson, I'm really sorry. This big shot hopes that you can go with me. You know, this matter seems to be very important to him and cannot afford to lose. After Gaomu came back, he threatened in a tactful way. It was to let Wang Gaiu Kayangson and Tang Mao and his group go to work with him. Obviously, even if life and death were uncertain, he would drag them along. Wang Gaiu Kayangson sneered and said, I don't know if this is the intention of the big shot or General Gaomu. Don't worry, I will protect you. Gaomu smiled and had no intention of responding. However, they were supposed to follow each other's footsteps. After all, they didn't know much about this place. As for if there is really danger at that time, they can run away. With his ability, it is not difficult to run away with them, as long as Sulu is not staring at him. Everyone then began to move forward. Together with the people on Sulu's side, there are a total of 150 to 60 people. In addition to his forbidden spell, there are 5 superclass mages with full cultivation of 4 element. The remaining 15 or 16 superclass mages are Gaomu, Mochizuki Kayangson, Tang Mao, Mu Bei, and finally more than 100 high-level mages. Judging from this lineup, it is already a top team. Everyone walked forward for about half a day, and the temperature on the road ahead began to rise unconsciously. This is the outer boundary of a continuous volcano. Speaking of which, I have a connection with the volcanic zone. The place I often go to in China is the continuous volcano, and it turns out that it is also a place of continuous volcanoes when I come to a foreign country. However, I don't know if the continuous volcanoes here are bigger than those in the north of the burning field. Before they began to enter, more than a dozen winged mages led the way. Since it is a demon empire, if they walk in so openly, they can kill the little demons alone, not to mention totem. Are there really totem beasts in this kind of place? And they are from our country? Mu Bei wiped the sweat from his head and asked Tang Mao in a low voice. This kind of place is indeed suitable for totem beasts to survive, but I don't know if it is from our country. After all, I haven't seen it. Tang Mao replied. If the totem beasts don't want to show goodwill to humans, the place they choose to live in is naturally the kind of place that does not welcome humans. How can the totem beasts from our country run to such a place? Xiaoyu said in confusion. I don't know. Tang Mao shrugged. He is not a god. How can he know everything so clearly? Wang Gaiu Kayangson snorted and said, maybe they dislike your country. Obviously, the little arrogant who learned their national language expressed his dissatisfaction with what Mu Bei and Xiaoyu said. Maybe it just wants to come here to build its own forces and finally occupy this place. Tang Mao also said, stop. At this moment, there seemed to be a sound mage in front, and the voice spread to everyone's ears. They were at the end of the team, and after hearing the command from the front, they all looked over. They saw that the volcanoes in front were full of firebirds. On this endless volcano, almost every one of them seemed to have hundreds or even thousands of them, and the most outrageous thing was that they seemed to have no head. Just looking at this, there seemed to be tens of thousands of them, and as for how many more there were behind, no one knew. After Sulu thought about it, he asked Gaomu to send a few mages to make some noise and lead these miscellaneous birds away. The mages who were sent out were naturally all the men brought by Gaomu. Originally, they thought that Gaomu was taking them to get promoted and make money. Who knew that they were actually cannon fodder? At this moment, almost all the chosen mages were filled with strong resentment towards Gaomu. However, they did not dare to disobey. Not to mention Gaomu. Even this man who frightened Gaomu to the point of trembling, made them dare not question this order. After more than a dozen high-level mages left, they began to bombard the sleeping firebirds with magic. Gag. With their attack, the sleeping firebirds woke up one by one in an instant. Of course, the main reason they woke up was the cry of their companions. However, this account obviously could not be attributed to their companions. Then, they rushed straight to chase the more than 10 high-level mages who were running wildly. The speed of the feather demon was extremely fast. Although those high-level mages threw a wave of bombs, they began to flee. But after the firebirds covered the sky, it only took more than 10 minutes to catch up. Although they were all high-level mages, and they were the best among ordinary high-level mages, they were quickly torn apart by the siege of tens of thousands of firebirds in less than a moment. After they made a noise and led the firebirds away, Sulu ordered everyone to move forward at full speed. However, this place was too big, and the firebirds did not all fly out at the same time. Some were still confused on the mountain, not knowing what was going on. At this time, they could not rely on anyone to lead them away. Everyone started to kill these powerful feather monsters together. Although there were still thousands of them, the strongest among them were only 2 commanders, and the battle was resolved in less than 5 minutes. Sulu frowned and said, "Speed up and go straight to the central volcanic area." He did not expect that. Although there were enough people this time, because there were too many people, they encountered such trouble just when they came to the edge. The elemental magic aura was so strong just now, the nearby monsters must have noticed it. Once the demons in the volcanic islands are really alarmed, they will really run out of magic power and die. After all, there are too many demons here. The reason why Sulu didn't take action the last time he came was because the number was really shocking, and he could actually call for more people to come. But this term's chief election is about to begin, and he has no time to wait. He needs a strong partner to join, so that he can stabilize his position. Chapter 634, a highly dangerous place. In the last battle, to siege the Black Dragon Emperor, many of Sulu's confidants died in the battle. Although he recruited new men in time, many important positions were still taken by other people. Because of this, his position as the chief may be lost. For someone like Sulu, asking him to give up his position is almost like asking him to die. This is also one of the main reasons why he came here in person after hearing the news of the totem beast. Although the crowd was advancing at a fast speed, they had just rushed less than 100 miles when they saw flame tiger lizards, armored rhinos, earth mountain bears and various fire attribute monsters running out from all directions. There were already thousands of them just besieging them, and from the smoke and dust behind, no one knew how many there were. This is a place with dense fire attributes. Although these monsters are all at the level of generals and commanders, their combat power here is almost bursting. Sulu naturally did not want to entangle with them, and sent out another 20 of Gaomu's men to resist them. Then, he personally struck out a thunderbolt of destruction, clearing a path for everyone in front. As for the 20 high-level mages who were left behind, they knew without thinking that the final outcome would be the fesses in the stomachs of the monsters. However, with their resistance, everyone had a chance to move forward. After rushing for hundreds of miles, they saw that the firebirds were already flying densely in the sky behind them, and the dust and fog below the firebirds were also rising into the sky. The sound of dong 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 on the ground told them that the monsters were catching up. Gaomu! Sulu shouted again. Gaomu also ordered without hesitation that the remaining 20 mages should stay here to cover the rear. Tang Mao felt bad after seeing that there were another 20 victims left behind. If there were to be victims left behind next time, it would obviously be them. He was not afraid of group battles, but in this situation, where there were endless kills, even he might not be able to withstand it. Follow me. After thinking about it, Tang Mao called to stop Wang Gaiu Kayangsen, Mu Bei, Xiao Ayu and Kao Kinkin. Kao Kinkin's face was almost pale at this time. Although she graduated with honors, she was not going to a small demon empire. She had never encountered even a demon tribe. With such a big battle, Kao Kinkin felt that her beautiful life was about to end here. To be honest, she regretted not listening to Tang Mao's dissuasion. What are you doing here? Isn't this just to die? But people are already here. Even if they want to regret, there is obviously no chance. What should we do? Should we evacuate? Mu Bei looked at the current situation. He knew very well that, if there were sacrifices next time, they would definitely be the few of them. Why retreat? Since we are here, of course we can't retreat. Tang Mao shook his head and said, Master Tang, the danger here is beyond imagination. If we go in so deep, I'm afraid we really won't have a chance to retreat. Xiaoai also said hesitantly. She was not afraid of killing demons, but from what they said, this was just a step on the edge of the land. Even if there were so many demons, if we went deeper, it would be unimaginable. This is still a small demon empire. If it is a big demon empire, what will happen? Moreover, the horror here seems to have not been fully revealed. What are you afraid of? I won't take you to die. Tang Mao finished speaking, and a black energy emerged, completely enveloping them. At this time, the group of demons behind had already rushed over. Of course, the magic behind was still continuously emitting extremely strong power. However, the number of demons was too many, and the constellation flickered for only more than 10 minutes before it completely dissipated. Obviously, they only lasted 10 minutes. The group of demons rushed over, and Tang Mao and others came to a small hill. Xiaoai looked at the approaching feathered demon, and wanted to attack. Tang Mao hurriedly said, don't attack them. Hearing this, Xiaoai was stunned. Although very puzzled, he still stopped drawing the star map. At this time, the firebirds had already flown over from the sky. They seemed to have not discovered them, and just flew over. After the firebirds, there was a group of land monsters. They still passed by here without any stop. Of course, because there were too many of them, occasionally a few would hit the mountain. Fortunately, they were not weak, and would not fall down, because of the shaking of the mountain. They rushed over from here one after another, and it took a full hour before there was no one left. In front, the breath of destructive magic continued to burst out, and even superclass magic was released. Let's go. After watching the monsters rush over, Tang Mao retracted his dark energy and continued. Wang Gaiuqiangsan hesitated for a moment, and asked in confusion, don't you want to find the totem? Go. Tang Mao responded without hesitation. Then why do you let us leave now? Xiaoai also asked. It's easy to get into trouble if I take you with me. If I go by myself, I can guarantee my own safety. Tang Mao did not hide anything. In this case, if they go with them, there is really no guarantee of safety. Whether it is Xiaoai or Kao Kinkin, they are of great help to Yuxu New City. New Bay is also a superclass mage, so these people naturally cannot let anything happen to them. As for Wang Gaiuqiangsan, no matter what, she is still his woman, so she must not be allowed to have any accidents. That's why Tang Mao chose to let them leave. No, I want to go with you. After Wang Gaiuqiangsan understood what Tang Mao meant, he decisively refused to leave. You are too weak. Tang Mao said again. I'm not weak, I'm also superclass. Don't make trouble, I will be fine. Hurry up and go. Tang Mao naturally would not agree. Superclass mage. In this place, where there are almost demons everywhere, what can a superclass mage do, even if it is a forbidden spell? He doesn't think that there is only one totem beast here that is a monarch level demon. Who knows what kind of terrifying existence there is in this deep place, and it can develop so powerful, and it has never been detected in the surrounding areas of R, which means that anyone who has set foot here should have turned into a pile of bones. Of course, in such a hot area, the bones may also turn into ashes. Chapter 635, Dragon. At Tang Mao's strong request, several people left here. Of course, he was going to send them away. But as Mochizuki Kayangsan said, it is still unknown how far away from the target places. If it goes back and forth, wouldn't it be a waste of time? Even if there are more monsters in the back, there shouldn't be many, they can handle it themselves. So Tang Mao continued to go deeper, and they went in the opposite direction. His speed alone was naturally extremely fast. It took more than 10 minutes to catch up with the monster group. The elemental magic aura in front of him became more and more dense, and the monster aura here was also ridiculously dense. I don't know how Zioa has lived so peacefully in this place not far from Tokyo Anji, where there is such a dense place of monsters. Of course, if it is really a Chinese totem, it may not be interested in human territory. Totem creatures, after all, rarely attack human territory. With the three magics of shadow, space, and wind, Tang Mao almost easily jumped over the dense feather monsters on the ground and in the air. After he had been sneaking for more than 10 minutes, he saw the source of the magic aura. He didn't expect Gaomyu and the others to be abandoned so quickly. However, just when he thought they were abandoned, even more terrifying lightning and black magic came from the front. This is obviously not the destructive power that can be emitted by superclass magic. This power belongs to the forbidden spell. Sulu made a move, which means that the place in front should be where the totem is. Looking at Gaomyu and his group, in addition to more than 20 high-level mages, more than 10 of them are superclass mages. No wonder they can resist for so long. Although Gaomyu, this little bastard, should have died long ago, there are so many demons here, so it's not bad to let him be cannon fodder. Bypassing Gaomyu and others, Tang Mao went straight to Sulu. At this time, on the wall built by earth magic, a shadow magician said, "I just felt something passing by. How is it possible? There are so many of us guarding here. If these demons have this strength, do you think we can still survive?" Another super magician said in a low voice. After releasing a wave of super magic, the shadow magician felt that his feeling should be correct, but there were no demons rushing over, and Sulu's magic power was too terrifying, so he gave up observing anything. He continued to resist. There were too many demons. Even if they could kill thousands of them with one magic, there was still a steady stream of demons rushing here. Boom 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 boom. After Tang Mao bypassed the temporary wall built by the earth magician, he moved forward for about 5 minutes, and a terrifying thunder field was emitted in front of him. He was not unfamiliar with this terrifying thunder. After all, when Sulu was escaping from Tyrant Mountain, he released such a terrifying destructive forbidden spell magic. Tang Mao did not rush to approach, but chose to look from a distance. In the place where the thunder bombarded, a giant lizard flapping its huge wings was constantly resisting Sulu's magic bombardment. As for the creatures in the nearby place, they had already died in the bombardment of the forbidden spell. Looking at the corpses here, there were not only the generals and commanders, but even 2 monarch level monsters. Of course, it was not just the monsters that died. At this time, there were only 2 confidants with good strength left by Sulu. In addition to the people in the fortifications over there, almost all the people he brought had been buried here. Nanawu. The huge giant lizard was really enough to explain that when the power of the forbidden spell was fully released, it was not dead yet. However, it looked like it was dying. Obviously, before Tang Mao came, this thing had resisted Sulu for a long time. And it was at this time that Tang Mao realized that this behemoth, the ancestor of the lizards, would actually be a supreme monarch. It seemed that it had survived for a long time, not because of its powerful bloodline. Facing some superclass mages, it might be able to cope, but it is obviously a little powerless against a forbidden spell mage like Sulu. Damn beast, since you insist on dying, I will fulfill your wish. Sulu was completely mad when he saw that this stupid thing didn't even get out. Of course, it's not that he didn't want to kill it, but any creature that reached the monarch level is not easy to be killed, let alone this monarch who has reached the supreme level. But today he came here to conquer the powerful totem here, so this kind of obstacle naturally cannot be left. In fact, the main reason why Sulu insisted on coming now is that the totem beast living here is in its weak period. If it is at its peak period, can Sulu be so anxious? A supreme monarch demon is equivalent to the level of a divine beast, and the opponent is still an ancient totem beast. With his strength, he can only fight the opponent to a draw at most. However, there are countless little demons here. Sulu dares to come without confidence. If he really had this strength, there would be many demons of the supreme monarch level in the demon empire. There were also demons that were not weaker than the totem, so why didn't he surrender? But he had come all the way here. Who knew that such a huge lizard would entangle him for so long? Go to hell. The thunder that had just destroyed this place reappeared. The thunder was dense, the earth cracked, and the magma rose to the sky again. But Sulu didn't care about these at all. Now he just wanted to destroy the other party, and then kill the guy living in the volcano dozens of miles away, and pull out the guy living there. Several thunders of destruction condensed into a ball. This time, because there were no small demons, the giant lizard was obviously going to be hit by a perfect forbidden spell. The giant lizard seemed to be hanging on for a breath. and had no ability to resist at all. Just when the thunder was about to strike its body, the ground suddenly began to collapse, and then a dragon with a body no smaller than it, and even comparable to the black snake appeared. Raw. It seemed to be advancing step by step. It was not a sub-dragon, but Tang Mao felt that it had almost reached the point of becoming a dragon. Moreover, its aura was several times more terrifying than that of this giant lizard. The thunder of destruction descended, and the huge dragon also exhaled, and ice flames soared into the sky. Chapter 636, Encountering Love Around the Corner? When Tang Mao saw the dragon, he thought that this was the totem Sulu was talking about. But Jade did not react at all, although it did use a lot of power to give itself. As long as the totem beast appeared, it would not be completely unable to react. The moment the ice flame and the destructive thunder collided, the originally broken mountain was almost destroyed in an instant. Tang Mao, the two superclass mages beside Sulu, and even the giant lizard were directly blown away by the aftermath of the energy. The most important thing is that after the power of Sulu and the dragon was combined, the destructive power was too terrifying. If Tang Mao had not hurriedly used the black dragon magic tool, he would have been severely injured by this impact. He used the black dragon magic tool to block this terrifying energy, not to mention Sulu's two subordinates, who were directly bombarded by this violent energy and were dying. Even if the destructive power itself was not aimed at them. As for the giant lizard, if it was in its peak state, it would naturally be fine. After all, its scales were extremely thick. But now, its huge body was torn into pieces. In an instant, the mountains here disappeared, and the ground turned into a sea of magma. The waves of fire were boiling and rolling, as if they were about to swallow the mountains here. It can be said that in an instant, there was no place to stay here. Sulu looked at the scene in front of him, and his forehead was bulging with blue veins. There was no way. If it dragged on like this, the situation would become more and more unfavorable to him. However, Sulu was obviously unwilling to give up like this, especially since he had lost so many of his subordinates. Beast, I will tear you into pieces. After the irritable Sulu roared, the black energy instantly unfolded. The complete black energy almost enveloped the whole world in an instant. Even Tang Mao had no time to escape, and was wrapped here. After looking at the black energy field, the dragon roared a few times, and released his own field. The fact that it could fight Sulu head on without any damage, was enough to prove its terrifying strength. However, after the previous wave of impact, Tang Mao had no intention of watching here at all. This was really a fight between gods and mortals. Although this place has been covered by Sulu's dark field, he is an excellent shadow magician himself, so he will not be suppressed. He turned into a black shadow and merged into this area. Then Tang Mao went to the volcano in the distance. A giant lizard and a dragon have such strength. Tang Mao is very curious. What is the totem beast here? What kind of strength does it have? Sulu, who was fighting with the dragon, also noticed another wave of shadow fluctuations. After all, it is his field. How could he not notice others wandering here? Thunder Halberd. After Sulu dodged the dragon's tail, he completed a star palace. At his level, it doesn't take too much time to depict superclass magic. It only takes a few seconds. Tang Mao, who was moving towards the volcano, suddenly felt a murderous intent behind him, and stopped in a hurry. Then his figure emerged. The silver light around him instantly bloomed. Space Rift. Although Tang Mao couldn't depict the Star Palace as quickly as Sulu, he was still able to complete the space system Star Palace before the Thunder Halberd hit him. Superclass magic is not regular. It can be said that everyone has different superclass ways to rely entirely on their own research and development. After Tang Mao's space system was upgraded to the superclass, it directly replaced the ice system as one of his defense methods. Although it is in the field of black magic, the restrictions on dimensional magic are not great. When the Thunder Halberd rushed over, the silver door opened, and the Thunder Halberd was directly absorbed. Although this space gate is not like the Chaos Vortex that can bounce back the opponent's elemental magic attack, it can still digest it. After blocking Sulu's Thunder Halberd, Tang Mao did not hesitate at all, and merged into the black domain again, heading towards the volcano. And Sulu had no time to attack again, let alone check who it was. because the dragon had already rushed over again. Obviously, for the dragon, Sulu was its opponent. As for Tangmao, the aura was too weak, so it was not a dish for it. Although Sulu didn't know who sneaked in at this time, he was sure that the other party was definitely not here to help. However, with the dragon entangled, he had no time to deal with it. Tangmao rushed all the way, and after Sulu threw a thunder, there was no more obstruction, and he rushed out of the black domain almost in one go. It was true that the domain was his, but with the help of the Shadow Evil Lord, it was not difficult to rush out. After rushing out, 6 wings appeared on Tangmao's back, and then he headed for the crater dozens of miles away. However, just when he was about to arrive, a huge claw suddenly grabbed him in front of him. Move in an instant. Tangmao hurriedly flashed to a place thousands of meters away from the crater. After he stayed here, he suddenly discovered that there was a huge monster in the clouds above the towering crater. Roar. A voice like a dragon roared out, which made Tangmao's scalp numb. Fortunately, his mental strength was strong enough, and he woke up in just a moment. At this time, a huge head emerged from the clouds. This seemed to be a dragon, and it was older than the dragon fighting with Sulu. Moreover, judging from the dragon-like roar just now, it might be really about to turn into a dragon! Exclamation mark. It was just that the appearance of the huge head made Tangmao feel timid. Who would have thought that such a terrifying monster could live in this unknown and not very dangerous place? Question mark. This appearance was like meeting love at a corner. The opponent's strength obviously had not reached the Emperor level, but its aura surpassed that of the Supreme Monarch. In other words, this thing must be at least a pseudo-Emperor level monster. After seeing this thing, Tangmao's first reaction was to escape. Even if he used the demon system now, the backlash pain could not last long. In this case, if he confronted a pseudo-Emperor monster head-on, wouldn't that be courting death? But at this moment, a red light suddenly shot up into the sky from the crater. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 637, The Fallen Totem Beast Kinyuan. The red light shot up into the sky, and the Killing Jade also began to tremble at that moment. At the same time, a huge bird appeared in Tangmao's mind. It looked very beautiful and its name was Kinyuan. It was also a feathered demon, and a totem beast belonging to the Suzaku branch. Its existence was actually older than totem beasts such as the Black Snake and the Overlord. Just when Tangmao was about to escape, the Killing told him that Kinyuan had fallen. What was bursting out now was actually its totem source power. This made Tangmao very puzzled. As a powerful totem beast, and also had its own small demon empire, how did it fall? Question mark. But at the same time, the behemoth in the clouds moved. But the other party did not come to Tangmao, but instead showed its head, and swallowed the red light column in one gulp. This thing is absorbing Kinyuan's totem source power. Tangmao stared at the scene in front of him in a daze, muttering in disbelief. The Killing Jade suddenly moved at this time. The red totem source power, absorbed by the Killing, came here. Although Tangmao was very happy that this guy had given him resources, but aren't you just attracting hatred? Question mark. If he leaves now, the other party will definitely not have time to deal with him. But you snatch food from the tiger's mouth, and expect the tiger to let you live? Sure enough, when the totem source power was absorbed by Tangmao, the tail of the behemoth suddenly emerged from the cloud, and then, the tail fan, which was bigger than several mountains, slapped over. Its head was obviously here, but who would have thought that the tail would slap from such a far place? I can't imagine how huge this thing must be! Exclamation mark. Tangmao teleported 3 times in a row before he escaped from the area hit by the tail. Boom. After this blow, several volcanoes were instantly flattened. In the distance, Sulu, who was fighting with another small dragon, was also stunned after seeing such a huge monster. He also didn't expect that there would be such a terrifying monster here. This creature that surpasses the monarch, if it becomes his contracted beast, it would be a better thing. However, how easy is it to deal with such a creature? not to mention himself. Even if 2 forbidden spell mages are added, they may not be able to deal with it and destroy it. And it is even more difficult to tame it. At least 4 or 5 forbidden spells are needed, and they must be forbidden spell mages with cultivation above the 3rd system. Maybe it is possible. The most important thing is that he doesn't know anything about this behemoth. He doesn't even know what the opponent's weakness is. How can he fight? Immediately, Sulu dispersed his domain, and then turned around and fled outside. That is, the person who delivered the information was dead. That is, he didn't observe carefully. Otherwise, how could Sulu come here? This is not a demon empire occupied by totems. This is clearly a territory occupied by a big demon. Although Sulu can't defeat the opponent, with his strength, he can still escape. After all, the behemoth had no intention of paying attention to him. Tang Mao had just dodged an attack when he found that Sulu had run away, and the dragon that was entangled with him did not choose to chase him, but instead ran towards him. As for the behemoth, entrenched in the clouds, it seemed that it was only interested in the totem source power. After seeing the younger brother coming, its tail was retracted into the clouds again. Roar. Seeing this, Tang Mao also wanted to escape. Let alone the big one, just the dragon rushing in front of him. That is not something he can easily deal with. But Killer New did not give up the intention of seizing the endless source power there. Even Tang Mao could feel that it was competing with the big guy who only showed his head and tail. Killer New was so persistent and ignored his safety, which meant that Kinyuan had some special abilities, and this was definitely a great help to him. No need to think about it. Although this rushing dragon was a headache, it always took effort to become strong. Yanji, Zuno. The contract summoning was activated, and the 2 elemental queens, Zio Yanji and Zio Zuno, appeared on his left and right sides in an instant. At the same time, Zio Fengji, who had just been promoted to the leadership realm, also flew out with a yelp. However, after the little guy saw the dragon rushing over, he went back into the contract space without saying a word. Damn, what are you doing? In response, Tang Mao muttered helplessly. Let's go together and stop it. Then, Tang Mao began to describe the Star Palace. Zunu and Yanji stayed in the air on the left and right. Each summoned their own elemental power. After seeing Yanji and Zunu, the dragon also roared. The appearance of these 2 elemental pets was somewhat unexpected. You know, creatures like them, or elemental pets of this level, shouldn't they shoot weak humans? Swish 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 swish. What the dragon was thinking, it didn't know. However, the moment the other party approached, the 2 of them turned into various attack methods of fire and ice, heading towards the dragon. Although the dragon's ice flame was suppressed by the elemental control of the 2 contract pets, its own strength made up for this problem. The 3 energies collided with each other in an instant, and the Snow Girl and the Flame Princess were directly bounced out by its remaining power. The speed of the dragon was not restricted at all, but it rushed towards Tang Mao even faster. At this level, it was still very clear that fighting with such a summoned creature was completely meaningless. As long as the summoner itself was solved, everything would be solved. Tang Mao had also completed the description of the Star Palace at this time. Here, it was not just the fire element that dominated. Therefore, there was no need to worry about what happened in the northern part of the burning plain. Thor's hammer. A big hammer suddenly condensed in the Star Palace. This was the former domain ability, and now under the use of the Star Palace, the power of Thor's hammer in Tang Mao's hand. Although it did not have the large-scale impact of Sulu's forbidden spell magic, but who didn't know that the power gathered together was the most terrifying? When the dragon was less than 100 meters away from Tang Mao raised his sledgehammer, and in an instant, the shadow of the hammer expanded 100 times. Go to hell. The next moment, Tang Mao pulled up the sledgehammer with all his strength and smashed it into the dragon's head. Chapter 638. Bang. The fall of this hammer almost shook the heaven and earth, and the space was shattered. The dragon that was hit by the hammer was not unprepared, but its defense was full of contempt. Because of this, it was hit by the hammer in the mountain area at this moment, and a large area of the mountain was destroyed because of its crash. Roar. The dragon that was snatching the source power in the clouds was also attracted by the hammer. It was really incredible that a human could burst out such a destructive force. Question mark? Human. Human. Tangmao was about to swing the hammer covered with domain thunder and continue to smash it down when a strong shock suddenly came to his mind. It was because of this sudden shock that he had to stop. Tangmao looked back at the behemoth. It was really unimaginable that a demon could speak, and it was words that he could understand. It was outrageous. However, Tangmao was even more curious about what this behemoth wanted to do. After successfully defusing Tangmao's attack, the dragon made another sound. Leave here, I will forgive what happened today. Tangmao was not prepared before, so he was disturbed by it. But now, he has used the power of the space system to arrange a layer of protection. Sure enough, the shock just now dissipated in an instant. Without the harassment of the opponent, Tangmao's sledgehammer naturally swung again. Leave here? If he wanted to leave, he would have left long ago. And now this behemoth wants to leave by itself, which means that it is now unable to split itself. Maybe there is something special about the totem source power of Kinyuan in this light column. Since you are here, how can I leave? Your loud voice doesn't work on me. Tangmao's sledgehammer condensed the power of thunder again, and the next moment the hammerhead hit the dragon lying on the ground again. Take its life while it is sick. Roar. But even though he was fast enough, he still gave the dragon a chance to catch its breath. The moment the hammer came down, the dragon suddenly buried its head in the magma. Without waiting for the hammer to fall, a thick column of fire shot up from the ground. The moment he saw the column of fire, Tangmao hurriedly used the black dragon magic armor. His destructive power is very strong, but it does not mean that his defense is the same. The impact of the dragon's power is definitely not something he can bear, but the black dragon magic armor obviously makes up for this disadvantage. Bang! The moment the power of thunder and fire collided with each other, the space nearby that had just begun to shatter actually began to shatter! Exclamation mark. If it weren't for the black dragon magic armor and the demonic physique, this impact would probably have torn him into pieces, right? After all, the human physique is fragile, so ordinary mages will not do things like a head-on collision of magic. And he is obviously an exception. Boom 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 boom, thunder and fire exploded here, the terrifying destructive power, almost destroying everything. Snow Girl and Flame Princess each used their greatest strength to desperately resist this impact. A large amount of energy rioted here, and the crater suddenly burst into magma. Boom. After the impact, Tangmao raised the Thor's hammer in his hand and smashed it down again. Although the dragon was the supreme monarch, it was stunned by the first hammer. It was amazing to be able to take the second hammer, but it was obviously unable to take the third hammer. The flames and magma were shattered by the power of thunder. The hammer fell from the sky and rushed straight to its head. Roar. The dragon also realized the horror and roared for help. But this was the critical moment. How could the dragon in the clouds care about it? Just as Tangmao thought, if it weren't for the totem source power of Kinyuan, Tangmao, a human, would have died when he arrived here. Bang. Boom boom bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. This hammer directly smashed the dragon deep into the ground, and the ground, which had been emitting magma from time to time, suddenly burst into magma because of the compression of the earth. Exclamation mark. It was not just the volcanic eruption here, but because of this destructive hammer, the flames of the entire volcanic archipelago rose to the sky. For a moment, the sky became extremely red due to the impact of the flame element, and it seemed to show a doomsday scene here. Roar. But even so, Tangmao just stopped his body, but heard the low roars from the magma. His hammer was definitely not weaker than Sulu's forbidden spell power. In other words, this dragon had endured 3 bombardments equivalent to forbidden spells, and it was not dead yet. Exclamation mark. And at this moment, the giant claw that appeared before fell from the sky again. Exclamation mark. Tangmao's reaction was also fast enough. When this claw came down, he moved away from here in an instant. Hoo la la. This claw almost poked a hole in the ground, and the magma also puff rushed straight into the sky. Shadow Evil Lord. After Tangmao dodged the opponent's attack, he released the Shadow Evil Lord. After the shadow appeared, it rushed straight to the dragon, submerged in the depths of the magma. Even the boiling magma could not stop the Shadow Evil at all. When it sank into the magma, the fiery red magma was suddenly filled with the power of darkness. It can be seen that this is the swallowing of the Shadow Evil. With the Shadow Evil Lord, to give the dragon a fatal blow, all he has to do is to give a big guy in the clouds some trouble. In such a place, where the fire element is dense, Tangmiro's combat power is naturally not weak. Yanji seemed to have realized that her father was going to make a big move, and immediately flew over and merged into his body. The snow girl retreated back to the contract space. There was no way. Unconsciously, it could not help in some battles. However, it cannot be said that the snow girl is weak. It is just because the battle locations of several times were almost without any assistance to her. Instead, they were full of suppression. Moreover, the opponents she faced were also powerful. After Yanji possessed her, the hot fire wave instantly spread around Tangmiro's body. The hammer condensed by thunder before burst out with the power of forbidden spells, and the current fire wave also burst out with the same power as before. Especially the fire element here are extremely dense, and they are mobilized so quickly. At the moment, when the fire field was formed, even the temperature of the magma felt a little cool. Chapter 639, False Emperor. The Gate of Hell, Lava. The Gate of Flame emerged in the clouds, and then flames and molten rocks from all directions blasted out from their respective gates, and huge lava rushed straight into the clouds. Boom boom roar. When the lava exploded in the clouds, the dragon who was working hard also roared to the sky, as if the lava caused some damage to it, forcing it to stop absorbing at this critical moment. The clouds also slowly dissipated under the impact of the fire wave. After the clouds dispersed in large areas, Tangmiro really saw how terrifying this behemoth was. This body size is almost equivalent to the area of half of the volcanic islands. Tangmiro didn't know how long it was and how it was hovering, but he only saw the tail and the head, and the body in the middle was almost endless. In his cognition, the size of this thing, maybe only the Black Dragon Emperor could crush it. Apart from that, there was really no demon he had seen that could have such a terrifying size. And Tangmiro's firepower that burned everything only caused a slight crack in its scales, but did not successfully break the defense. After it moved so slightly, it didn't know where to go to the place where it attacked before. Ignorant human, die for the Emperor. The strong sound wave hit Tangmiro's spirit, and then a world-destroying flame fell from the sky. This mouthful of sky flame almost covered all the routes that Tangmiro could escape, and there was no chance to run. Thunder Halberd. When the sky-falling flame fell, thunder and lightning condensed in Tangmiro's hand. There was no way to run, so he could only choose to fight hard. With the protection of the Black Dragon demon armor, he still had a chance. The Star Palace was completed, the Thunder Halberd emerged, and the next moment, Tangmiro threw it out with all his strength. Thunder that destroys everything, shatter it. Swish, boom, sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The Thunder Halberd rushed towards the fire wave, and the powerful thunder chiseled an exit the moment it touched. When the thunder element is strong enough, it is not just the darkness that is shattered. Of course, its impact force is only at the beginning, but then the thunder force is slowly exhausted, and finally it is directly dispersed the gate of the hell of fire. Fortunately, Tangmiro still has a little idea of his own weight. Before the fire wave comes down, his gates of fire also erupt with powerful flames. In terms of the power of the flame of the Jiaohuang is not as hot as its flame. It can be said that, if it is only at the monarch level, even the supreme monarch can't resist the impact of his flame. But the opponent has obviously jumped out of the realm of the monarch. Even if Tangmiro's flame is strong enough, it can only offset part of the power. Fortunately, the Shadow Evil Lord had dealt with the dying dragon in this short time and returned here. Ice Crystal Prison. Wind Wing's Guardian Space Wall. Most of its power had been offset, and the remaining fire waves did not give Tangmiro any chance to offset it, so he could only resist it. Constellations emerged one after another, and layers of protection appeared, but when the fire waves came down, these protections were almost shattered in an instant. At this time, the soul shadow of Yanji appeared behind him. This kind of possession and shadow was the first time. However, with the emergence of Yanji, the fire wave was obviously partially offset. The scorching impact directly penetrated Tangmiro's body. It was because of the protection of several soul fires and the fire of the sky that he was not melted inside his body. Although it felt uncomfortable, there was still hope of resistance. However, Tang Mao underestimated the attack of the pseudo-emperor. Just when he was about to collapse, a cool feeling suddenly surged into his body. Then, next to Yanji, the figure of Zunu also emerged. That's right, this second force is Zunu. It was the first time that Tang Mao had merged to contract pets with a human body. With the addition of Zunu, the previous scalding feeling instantly dissipated, and the souls of Yanji and Zunu turned into a pair of wings in an instant. The ice and fire wings appeared behind Tang Mao, and then wrapped him in them. Hua hua hua. Hua hua hua. Cheyenne Yan sank into the magma, and the small mountain almost melted completely. There was almost no land under his feet, and it completely became magma. Kilinu seemed to have noticed the situation here, and suddenly disappeared in the air, and the next moment he returned to Tang Mao's spiritual world. But, under the wings, inside the magic armor, Tang Mao was already covered in blood. Fortunately, they were just superficial injuries. After the Kilin told Tang Mao that it had gotten what it wanted, Tang Mao ignored his pain, moved his wings, and rushed out of the hot magma, and then flew out. When the Jiaohuang saw that Tang Mao was still alive, and found that half of the totem source power that he had been looking forward to was taken away, he was furious. Roar. A wave of air hit Tang Mao, who was running away very accurately. The strong impact made him fall directly, but when he was about to fall into the magma, the light of the Kilin Jade flashed in his mind. This made him recover. If it were in the past, he would have to throw a thunder halberd to it for such a thing. But the opponent's strength was obviously not something he could compete with, so Tang Mao naturally had no intention of staying. At the same time, the Jiaohuang suddenly disappeared there. Just when Tang Mao had just flown less than a few dozen miles, its figure suddenly appeared in front of him. Of course, it is not as huge as before, but the aura it exudes is no weaker than before. Human, leave your strange soul jade behind, otherwise I will tear you into pieces. The Jiao Emperor who stood in front of Tang Mao did not launch an attack, but simply blocked his way. It seems that this thing is very important to you? Tang Mao could not continue to run, so he had to choose to stop. Although he was not seriously injured, he would faint sooner or later if he continued to bleed. So, for now, he had to fight. As soon as he finished speaking, blood ink magic energy filled his body, causing the Jiao Emperor in front of him to feel trembling fear slowly revealed. Exclamation mark. Chapter 640. Thunder and Fire After Fusion. After feeling something was wrong, the Dragon King exhaled again. But this time, it did not crash Tang Mao. When the flame of his breath hit Tang Mao, it was torn apart. That's right, it was directly separated from top to bottom. And the one who appeared in front of it was no longer the human being it had seen before, but a demon covered with strange patterns. Since you want it, I'll give it to you. There was no escape, and the blood of the devil was awakened again. Just as Tang Mao thought, the backlash of using the power of the devil in the near future was really terrifying. He cherished time very much, and after the demonization, he rushed straight to the Dragon King. Behind him, the 5 souls of Snow Girl, Flame Princess, Ziohei, Wind Princess, and Shadow Evil also appeared together. Puff. Tang Mao's speed was so fast that the Dragon King could hardly react. Then, the tiger claws tore directly on its head, and the originally hard head was actually scratched by Tang Mao with blood marks. The Jiao Emperor did not expect that Tang Mao's momentum had not only changed, but also his strength had changed to the point that shocked him. Fortunately, he reacted quickly. Otherwise, the claw just now would not have left a few bloody marks. But he had not been injured for thousands of years, and Tang Mao scratched him until he bled. His eyes turned red, and the next moment, he swung his tail over. Although his body had shrunk a lot, his tail was still as big as a small mountain. But unlike what he imagined, Tang Mao was not blown away by the tail, but his huge tail was actually caught alive. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The next moment, Tang Mao started spinning, as if he was dragging a mountain. The Jiao Emperor was even more stunned by the spinning. He obviously did not expect that his tail, which was enough to destroy a city, would be caught by a human, and he was actually swung around. Exclamation mark. While the Jiao Emperor was spinning, the magma here was driven into a fire tornado. Swoosh. Then Tang Mao threw it into the air, and his claws were instantly filled with the power of thunder and fire. Ultimate destruction, after all, is thunder and fire. Look, I'll tear you apart. After a roar, he flew directly into the air. The giant Huang was also afraid. Although he couldn't keep his body steady, he suddenly restored his original size at the moment when Tang Mao tore him apart. Puff. Not to mention, after becoming huge, Tang Mao was shocked, but even if it was huge, what could it do? In front of the power of the devil, there is nothing that can't be torn apart. A huge hole emerged, and blood beads that were twice as large and hot fell drop by drop. The mountains here were also swallowed by the magma one by one, while the blood fell. The strong smell of blood made Tang Mao feel a little irrational, as if he wanted to tear the other party to pieces, so that more blood would be spilled. Bang! The next moment, on the tiger claws, the power of thunder and the power of fire each condensed on one hand, and then the two hands were combined into one, and the energy that was about to explode kept rubbing and merging in his hands. That is to say, the demon's control power is strong enough. That is to say, the demon's endurance is strong enough. Otherwise, Tang Mao would never take such a risk to merge this destructive power. But it is obviously not possible not to do this. He has no way to keep entangled with this behemoth. Otherwise, he has a feeling that he may lose control. When the power of the demon is continuous, his mental power is obviously in a weak period, and he may not be able to control this power. When the power of thunder and fire merged together, the originally fiery red sky suddenly became overcast. Even most of Japan became dark for a while. Boom. Boom. The thunder that was scattered from time to time almost fell there, and there was an instant destruction. Seeing this, the huge body of the Jiaohuang moved instantly, because it also felt the destructive power in it. Although Tang Mao didn't know what he used to take away nearly half of Qinyuan's fire source power, compared to getting it to go a step higher, saving his life is what it needs to do most now. Haha. You want to run? Can you run? Seeing the huge monster trying to escape, a devilish laugh came out. Just like a death notice, the fierce Jiaohuang a few minutes ago, but in the next few minutes, he ran away in a miserable state. Die for me. After throwing the condensed thunder and fire in his hand into the sky, where the Jiaohuang was going to escape, a series of star palaces emerged. These star palaces are purple red. When the star palaces emerged, the fiery red sky thunders bombarded the opponent's body one after another. Boom. Almost one thunder, and one mushroom cloud. Even if it didn't bomb the Jiaohuang, it directly destroyed the volcanic island here without leaving any mountain, and even the sea water deep in the magma was blasted out. Exclamation mark. This sky thunder lasted for more than 10 minutes, and half of the area of this huge volcanic archipelago was swallowed by the sea. The space around here was completely messy and broken. Looking at the mushroom clouds, Tang Mao could still sense that the opponent was not dead yet. However, the pain of the backlash made him unable to catch up. Then, he flew outside. At this moment, the sea of magma had already gushed out to the outer area. Even if he didn't catch up, once he released his demon form, he would definitely die if he fell into it with his mortal body. As for Zunu and Yanji, because Tang Mao forcibly turned into a demon, the power extracted was this, and at this time they were completely in a coma. Just when he flew over the wall built by the Earth Magician before, he saw a pile of dead bodies here, and the group of monsters seemed to have sensed the crisis, and began to flee everywhere. The occasional darkness in front of him made him feel like he was going to crash at any time. Just when he was about to collapse, he happened to see Wang Kaiangsen and others who were besieged not far away. Question mark? Although he didn't know how they were besieged, Tang Mao also crashed directly towards them. There was no way he couldn't hold on for almost a second now. In Yuxunu City, what is this bastard doing? Why is he so weak? Apis, who was in the process of shedding her skin, suddenly opened her beautiful eyes and muttered worriedly. What's wrong, Apis? Yushishi, who was in charge of taking care of her, asked after hearing Apis's movements. Tang Mao might have been in trouble. My strength is constantly declining. Chapter 641 Mubei is going to die. He's dead. Yushishi asked subconsciously. Apis's mouth twitched slightly. Tang Mao was dead. Could she still live? No, no, I'm not cursing him to death. But if you don't say it, don't you feel that he is going to die? Yusha, she said again. If she hadn't looked very worried, Apis would have definitely slapped her a few times. What is she saying? It's as if she wanted Tang Mao to die. Although there was a period of time when Apis hated Tang Mao, but that was in the past. Now, she doesn't want him to die at all. After all, she can't live if he dies. That's not what I mean. Yusha, she also felt that what she said seemed to be a curse that Tang Mao would die immediately. She wanted to explain with a little embarrassment. Okay, I understand what you mean. Apis stopped her from continuing to be venomous, and then said he should not be in danger of life, but he used that powerful force again. As for how he is now, I don't know. Then I'll tell Muningsu and ask her to send someone to take him away. Yusha, she thought for a while and said, go ahead. This time, Apis did not refuse. In fact, if she was not in the molting stage, if her strength had not been reduced, she would have gone directly by herself. With the contractual relationship, it was obviously easier for her to find Tang Mao than anyone else. But in her current situation, if she went, it would simply cause trouble. At this time, on the volcanic islands, Wang Gaiu Kayangsan carried Tang Mao on her back and looked at Mu Bei, Xiaoyu and Kao Kinkin and said, let's fight our way out and don't stay any longer. Although she didn't know what happened to Tang Mao, he was extremely weak at this time and urgently needed to go back for treatment. Now it's not a question of whether we want to go in or not. Look around, we are completely surrounded. Xiaoyu said helplessly. They wanted to go in before, but these demons wouldn't let them go. Now they don't want them to leave. Boom. At this moment, a collapse sound suddenly came from the back not far away. After the violent sound, there was a sea of fire rising into the sky. The moment this sea of fire rose into the sky, the group of demons surrounding Wang Gaiu Kayangsan and the others instantly began to flee for their lives. Faced with this natural disaster, this group of demons, no matter how many there are, can't withstand the swallowing of a sea of fire. Oh my god, what on earth did the teacher leave behind? Kao Kinkin looked at the fire wave that seemed to swallow everything and said in a daze, Kao Kinkin, what are you still doing there? Run. Wang Gaiu Kayangsan shouted. Hearing this, Kao Kinkin realized that several people had already started to rush? Question mark? There was no longer any daze, and the magic tools under her feet, combined with the magic of the earth system, began to move at full speed. It was because she was a mage with displacement skills that Wang Gaiu Kayangsan did not return to pick her up. Otherwise, it would not be shouting. After Kao Kinkin caught up, she saw that Mu Bei and Xiaoyu had already started to clear the group of demons in front of them. Kao Kinkin couldn't help but say, it's not good for us to attack them like this. If they fight back at this time, they will be miserable. Especially since the biggest magic turret of my teacher is still in a coma. There is almost no fun. Now they are only concerned with escaping. How can they target us? Didn't you notice that they have begun to disperse? Wang Gaiu Kayangsan said. Kao Kinkin only then realized that those demons seemed to be shocked by Mu Bei's superclass magic. At this moment, they have already fled in all directions. Obviously, the other party is also very cherishing their lives. Seeing the sky-high fire waves erupting in the back, there is no intention to stop at all. After running wildly for more than 10 minutes, I saw that the fire wave had already rushed over. Mu Bei said, you run first, I will block it. What, are you kidding? This level of fire wave, how can you block it? Xiaoyu said hurriedly. Although Mu Bei is already a superclass magician, his strength is not enough to resist this sky-high fire wave. If you force it to block it, it is simply courting death. Believe me, it's okay. Mu Bei said with a frown. Mu Bei was not sure, but he had to go, because if he didn't, then everyone might suffer from the burning flames together. Xiaoyu wanted to say something, but Mu Bei said again, don't waste time, otherwise, even if I'm sure, I can't do it. Hearing this, Xiaoyu had to turn around and continue running, and Mu Bei looked at the fire wave that was about to hit him, and described the Ice Star Palace. Frost fell, and a thick ice wall appeared in front of him. However, this fire wave had just been hit by Tang Mao's destructive magic, and now its explosive power was almost destroying everything. Didn't you see that the nearby mountains have been completely destroyed? Chi-chi-chi. Boom. The resistance of the ice wall only lasted less than 2 minutes before it dissipated immediately, and Mubei saw this and hurriedly released ice magic again. Unfortunately, in front of this endless wave of fire, his thin ice was completely useless. Boom. Another explosion sounded, and Mubei was directly blown away by the impact of the fire wave. Mubei, Xiaoyu and Kaiokenkin were both stunned when they saw Mubei rushing over their heads. Fortunately, they had already run a long way when Mubei blocked them, so they didn't have to worry about being caught up. Mubei crashed directly onto the top of the scorching mountain. He was already attacked by the scorching fire wave. At this moment, he fell to the ground, as if he was roasted. After Wangayu Kaiangsen and the other 2 girls came to the volcano, their magic shoes had been used up. Fortunately, the place where Mubei crashed was relatively high, and the power of the fire wave had already weakened after lasting for so long, so they didn't have to worry about them being melted into pieces in the fire wave. Of course, even so, Wangayu Kaiangsen and Kaiokenkin still set up a water shield on the side of the mountain. Otherwise, this seemingly weakened fire wave would still cause terrible damage to them. Xiaoyu checked Mubei, but found that Mubei was like a hot stove, and it was the kind of extremely high temperature that could not be touched by hand. The most important thing is that he almost has no breath now. Wangayu Kaiangsen, who blocked the sea of fire, came over at this time and was also stunned after seeing Mubei's appearance. He has become like this. It can be said that it feels like Mubei has almost ruined all chances of survival. P.S. There will be another update later. Chapter 642 Xiaoyu is the last. Let's leave here first and go back to Xuanshao Pavilion to see if there is any way to save him. Wangayu Kaiangsen didn't know what to do, but it was definitely impossible to let Mubei's body be exposed in the wilderness. Xianshan. At this moment, Kaiokenkin suddenly exclaimed. Hearing this, Xiaoyu and Wangayu Kaiangsen turned their heads to look at her at the same time. Kaiokenkin also knew that it was not good for her to shout loudly, but the scene in front of her was too shocking. Look behind you. Kaiokenkin pointed to the direction they just ran out and said. Wangayu Kaiangsen and Xiaoyu looked over at the same time. At the same time, they were both stunned. They saw that the endless volcanic islands before had turned into an ocean at this moment. That's right, although it started with red magma, the back had been covered by the blue sea without knowing it. Exclamation mark. Although there were still a few small islands standing in the distance, compared with the previous land scene, this was now completely divided into sea areas. It's no wonder that Kaiokenkin was surprised. Who would have thought that in this volcanic area, it would eventually be swallowed by the ocean? Question mark. Moreover, the location they are in now is still in the central edge of the volcanic archipelago. Such a big island is gone just like that. The 3 women couldn't help but wonder, what did Tangmao do? Question mark. What on earth was fighting with him? Question mark. Okay, don't be stunned, let's go quickly. 1 minute later, Mubei is closer to complete death. At this time, Xiaoyu came back to her senses and said. Hearing this, the 2 women thought so too. Then Kaiokenkin and Xiaoyu took turns to carry Tangmao, while Wangayu Kaiangsen was responsible for wrapping Mubei with water. There was no way. Mubei was like a high temperature furnace now. There was no way to rely on who was carrying what. I was afraid that he would be melted at any time. The 3 women left this area, but when they were halfway there, they suddenly found that the sky was full of firebirds. They seemed to have special ideas about these girls who consumed a lot of magic energy. I'll delay them for a while, you guys run. Xiaoyu said. Facing so many feather monsters, it's almost impossible for 3 people to run together. Especially when their magic tools are exhausted. With so many feather monsters, you're just going to die if you stay? Kaiokenkin said weakly. If I don't stay, we'll all die. Xiaoyu said again. Let's go. Wangayu Kaiangsen also said. There's no other way, this is not the time to procrastinate. To be honest, Xiaoyu's personality is quite appreciated by Wangayu Kaiangsen. When leaving, Wangayu Kaiangsen turned around and said, we'll wait for you at the edge, you must stay alive. Although I cursed myself a little, you still don't have to wait for me. Whether they can survive depends on you. You can go back to Xuanshao Pavilion when you leave here. Xiaoyu shook her head. In the case of Tang Mao and Mu Bei, it is obvious that they can't delay and must be treated in time. Of course, as for Tang Mao, Xiaoyu felt that he would be fine. After all, what serious injuries has he not suffered? When guarding the Chinese coastline, it felt like Tang Mao had no good flesh on his body. Didn't he recover completely in the last month? So, whether he survived or not, it was actually up to Mu Bei. Wang Kaiangsen didn't say anything more, but turned around and ran away. Although she didn't have magic tools, she was a superclass mage after all. Moreover, her fourth element was the wind element. Although she hadn't reached the high level, her movement speed was not slow. Kaioken used her earth element displacement skills. Of course, when she left, she still glanced at Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu didn't even look at them, and was completely locked on the firebirds in the sky. The firebirds naturally saw Wang Kaiangsen and the other two running away, and they immediately flew up to arrest them. There were thousands of them, and how could one human be enough? Killing music explosion. But just when the firebirds that were about to rush over Xiaoyu's head flew over, Xiaoyu suddenly spit out a note. Bang! Very suddenly, several firebirds exploded in the head in an instant. Broken funeral song. Then, dozens of firebirds wanted to fly over here, but how could Xiaoyu fulfill their wishes? A soul song was heard, and these dozens of firebirds crashed almost instantly. Kun's forest puff puff puff. As they crashed, the plants on the ground turned into sharp spears, piercing and killing them one by one. The firebirds no longer tried to fly over here, but began to attack Xiaoyu. Obviously, they also found that this human was not a weak chicken. If they wanted to hunt prey, they had to kill it. Puff puff puff. One after another, small fire pillars were ejected under the waving fire wings of the feather monsters. Facing the dense fire pillars like thousands of arrows, Xiaoyu was not afraid at all. The golden constellation flickered, and a huge light shield appeared in front of him. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The attacks of the miscellaneous birds were almost all blocked. But no matter how strong the light shield was, it couldn't stop the attack of thousands of firebirds, and Xiaoyu knew this. When the light shield was about to break, she had already run to a higher place. Light falls everywhere. The golden light flashed again, turning into small pieces of gravel, and then smashed towards the flock of birds. Dozens of birds were hit, and fell to the ground. Xiaoyu's magic power was not very sufficient, so her killing method was naturally not enough. So, after resisting for a while, Xiaoyu began to run in the opposite direction of Wang Kaiangsen and the others. At this time, the firebirds, who had been provoked with hatred, naturally would not chase any other prey. Their target was firmly locked on Xiaoyu. This was exactly what Xiaoyu wanted. When she saw the flock of birds chasing her, she almost attacked while running. Of course, in order to save magic power, Xiaoyu's magic was mostly elementary magic, and because of this, the damage to the feather monsters was not very great. Moreover, no matter how fast she was, in such a place without cover, it was almost like a dead end, and there was no chance of escaping the pursuit of the monsters. But Xiaoyu did not mean to give up, dodging the attacks of the firebirds, and occasionally fighting back, but her frantic pace did not mean to stop at all. Chapter 643 Treatment Method. After Wang Kaiangsen and Kaioken ran all the way to the outer edge of the volcanic archipelago, and saw the sea area, they were slightly relieved. Kinkin, you come to pave the way, let's go. Seeing Kaioken still looking behind, Wang Kaiangsen said with a slight sigh. Facing so many feather monsters, she didn't think that a high-level mage could still leave alive. In fact, when she left before, she knew very well what would happen to Xiaoyu. But there was no way. Someone had to cover the rear. Even if Mu Bei didn't need to be moved, she would have stayed behind to cover the rear. After all, her strength was still stronger than Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu herself knew this in her heart, but in the end she still chose to cover the rear. Since someone has made a sacrifice, it would be the most irrational for them to waste other people's sacrifices here. Teacher, aren't we waiting for her? Kaioken didn't think so much. She felt that with Xiaoyu's strength, she might be able to get rid of the feather monsters and escape. Xiaoyu is not a water mage. If she escapes, and they have already left, she will really be controlled here. Don't wait, she won't come here. Didn't you see that the feather demon behind has turned around? Wang Gaiu Kaiangsen said again. Kaiokinkin paused. She wanted to insist, but she didn't know what reason to use. What we have to do now is to save them. We are racing against time. Are you still going to waste time here? Kaiokinkin was very distressed. After all, Xiaoyu was still a good big sister. But what Wang Gaiu Kaiangsen said was not wrong. Liu Bei's life and death were uncertain at the moment, and Yuxu City might have lost a capable general. If Liu Bei was not saved, wouldn't Xiaoyu's sacrifice be in vain? I know. After responding, Kaiokinkin began to use water magic to build a road, and then the two of them ran wildly on the sea. Of course, they were not going to return from the sea. This place was a long distance from Shuangshao Pavilion. When they came out, Wang Gaiu Kaiangsen used her method to communicate with Wang Gaiu Mingjian, who was far away in Shuangshao Pavilion. Therefore, they just need to rush to the forest and then go to Tokyo. The two of them were lucky. They did not encounter any sea monsters that came out to hunt along the way. Of course, even if there were a few warrior level monsters, they would not dare to act rashly in the face of a high level mage and a super level mage. After they arrived in the forest area in a day, they immediately received help from friends who asked for help from Wang Gaiu Mingjian. They returned to the safe world very smoothly. After they arrived safely, Wang Gaiu Mingjian and his friend, a healing mage, happened to come here. Mu Ningxu, Mo Fan, and Zhao Manayan, who came here after hearing the news from Yuxu City, also came here. Seeing the two of them like this, Mu Ningxu still remained calm enough and asked Kaiokinkin about the whole story. Kaiokinkin saw the eldest sister of the eldest sister and reported it honestly. In the conversation between Mu Ningxu and Kaiokinkin, Wang Gaiu Kaiangsen suddenly felt that this very silent ice beauty might be her biggest enemy on the road to love rival. Of course, now is not the time to be jealous. Besides, she was exhausted after a big battle and rushing back without stopping. She was still here just to make sure Tang Mao was okay. After listening to Kaiokinkin, Mu Ningxu was thinking about asking Mo Fan and Zhao Manayan to go to that place again to pick them up when the tightly closed door opened. Sake, how are they? The one who spoke was Mochizuki Chixon. The healing mage who was found was also very famous in the smaller version. Therefore, other people's questions might not be answered. That boy covered in wounds is simply a monster. He was so seriously injured and bled so much, but he is not in any danger of life. And I even feel that he is still recovering by himself, said the healing master called Sake with a little emotion. Mu Ningxu and others were not surprised by this. Sake did not hide it and continued. As for the child covered in burns, it is also a miracle. His heart meridian seems to be sealed with ice power, but it is not easy to save him. Damn, what nonsense are you talking about? Can the green tea be saved? Mo Fan said with a little dissatisfaction with his way of speaking. Mo Fan. Mu Ningxu was still very sensible. She turned around and scolded him. Well, seeing this, Mo Fan had to step aside. Sorry, Mr. Sake is not very patient. Mu Ningxu apologized first, and then said, then do you have a way to save him? The master of the smaller country looked at Mo Fan and snorted coldly. After all, he was a very famous person. When did anyone dare to talk to him like this? It was so rude. It was because he had a good relationship with Wang Gaiu Mingjian. Otherwise, he would have given up, just because of Mo Fan's attitude. Wang Gaiu Mingjian also knew Sake's temper, so he smiled and persuaded him. Old friend, don't mind it. This little brother is just anxious. Do you think he can be saved? Sake then said, I can't guarantee it, but there is indeed a way to try. Try it? Several people were stunned. This matter of life and death. This bastard actually said to try it! Exclamation mark. This is not a human being. Your friend has been injured like this. It can be said that in the whole world, except for Parthenon, I dare to conclude that no one can save him. But even if you can go to Parthenon for help, he can't hold on for that long. Not to mention that not everyone can save Parthenon. Sake continued. In fact, what he said was a bit exaggerated. However, it was true for Muningsu and others. After all, they didn't know any excellent healing wizards. Parthenon did know someone, and it was even Yixingsha who could revive the dead. However, if they were to rush to Parthenon now, New Bay would have melted away. When Emofan heard this, he wanted to tell the other party that he really had someone in Parthenon, and that person was the candidate of the goddess of high status. But just when he was about to start to retort, he was stopped by Muningsu. Obviously, Emofan's thoughts were seen through without a trace. But now it was a matter of life and death, and the most important thing was time. She would not give Emofan a chance to talk nonsense. Then I don't know if Master Sake has any way to save my friend. Muningsu stopped Emofan with her eyes and then asked, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 644, Muffin's Little White Mouse. Seeing Muningsu's sincere attitude, and with the face of one guy sword, Sake said, first, we need a powerful fire mage to guide the fire in his body. However, the impact of this fire is equivalent to the impact of a superclass magic. Without defense, it is still a question whether the person being guided can withstand it. So, you must first find a fire mage, and a powerful fire mage, to welcome this fire. When the other party finished speaking, everyone looked at Emofan at the same time. Emofan immediately felt a big groan! Exclamation mark. This is the impact of superclass magic. His fire element is only high level perfection. How can he withstand it? Think about it. This is the impact of superclass magic. Although Emofan's physique is not bad, but it is not necessarily possible to withstand it. Okay, this is no problem. Just when everyone was at a loss, Tangmao's voice came from the room. Hearing this, several people walked in at the same time. Sake was also stunned when he saw Tangmao waking up and leaning against the bed. Although I know you have a good physique, you don't have to wake up so quickly, right? Tangmao's injuries had already healed a little on their own, and with Sake's healing technique, the external injuries had almost healed. It was just that he was a little weak after using the power of the devil in a short period of time. Otherwise he wouldn't have fainted for so long. How do you feel? Mochizuki Chiksen came to Tangmao's bed and asked worriedly. I'm fine. After responding to her, Tangmao said, although the flame in his body is equivalent to the power of superclass magic, the damage in his body has lasted for so long, and the power is much smaller, so the digestion of this flame is not a problem. What preparations are needed after the flame is guided? Although Sake didn't understand how Tangmao knew the power of the flame in the other person's body, since he asked, he answered, after the flame is removed, I will give him some treatment, but whether he can survive or not, it depends on fate. Well, in that case, prepare to guide. Tangmao nodded. At this time, Emofan said, boss, with your current physical condition, even if it is not a superclass fire, can you withstand the impact of this flame? Tangmao looked back at him and continued, who said I'm here? Of course you are the best person to be a guinea pig. Tangmao said as a matter of course. Emofan was stunned for a moment. So he was going to do it himself? Question mark? Boss, I think green tea has no hope, so don't harm me. Otherwise, I'll cremate him. Emofan said with a strong desire to survive. What are you afraid of? The fire in his body is not without benefits to you. As long as you can withstand it, you may be able to take the opportunity to advance to the superclass. Tangmao said again. This is not nonsense. The magma fire has the power of his demon condensation fused in it. As long as Emofan can withstand this guiding stage, it is not impossible to take advantage of the momentum to impact the superclass. And being a guinea pig, Emofan will have an accident? Superclass fire system? Emofan's eyes lit up when he heard this. You can't say it. He was tempted. After all, this is a rare opportunity. Well, I think that, although green tea is a bit of a dog, he is also a brother. Boss, leave this matter to me. After agreeing, Emofan looked at the healing mage Sake and said, hey, alcohol, come on. Although Sake was very unhappy with his pronunciation, He didn't say anything when he thought about the purgatory burning later. Although this flame lasted for a long time, the impact is still not as simple as understating it. Moreover, these guys are really bold to break through the super level with the help of this flame. However, he is only responsible for saving people, and they can do whatever they decide. After all, this old thing is still unhappy with Emo-fan and wants him to lie in bed for a year or two. Otherwise, he will remind him no matter what. After Emo-fan agreed, everyone withdrew. Even Tangmyo was taken to another room by Mochizuki Kyanksen to rest. Zao Manan looked at Wangayu Kyanksen and Tangmyo who were leaving, then looked at Muningsu and whispered, "Goddess Mu, why don't you go with us? Isn't there that Japanese woman taking care of him?" Muningsu turned around and asked with a calm expression, "Goddess Mu, shouldn't you show some of your abilities at this time?" Zao Manan said again. In terms of familiarity, he must be more familiar with Muningsu than Wangayu Kyanksen. Otherwise, Zao Manan would not bother to speak. Muningsu shook her head and said, "No need, and I have never considered women outside of China as rivals." Domineering. Zao Manan was stunned for a moment, then gave a thumbs up. Muningsu did not respond. There was really no need to compete for favor. After all, no matter who it was, in front of Tangmyo, the highest they could be was second. As for the number one person in his heart, she did not think anyone could shake the other's position. Tangmyo was so unruly, but in front of Tang Yu, didn't he still act like a little brother? Apart from Tang Yu, even the top bosses in the country would not let him do this, right? Therefore, Muningsu, who understood everything, would not do anything to compete with Wangayu Kyanksen for love. Besides, she was not that kind of person. If it weren't for the ice attribute that she exuded from time to time, which made Zao Manan feel chilly, Zao Manan would really believe it. "Ah. Fuck, you little devil, do you want to mess with me? Hot hot hot, I'm not coming anymore. Green tea should be cremated." At this moment, Emo-fan's cursing voice suddenly came from the room. Obviously, the guidance technique has begun, but this feeling is obviously different from what he expected. Emo-fan felt that he was tricked. Either Tangmyo tricked him, or this dog mage was tricking him. But apart from scolding Sake, he didn't dare to scold Tangmyo. Sake wanted to remind him that after all, this was just the beginning. If he couldn't bear it, forget it. After all, this kind of trauma is still harmful to people. He is saving people, not harming them. Even if this is not a Chinese, it is brought by the famous sword of Wangayu. However, after hearing what Emo-fan said, Sake felt that he might have thought too much. Just this loud voice, how could it be unbearable? Immediately, he worked harder to increase the output of the flame guide. After the power of the fire element arrived, Emo-fan only felt that the parts of his body were already burning, and he didn't care about cursing anymore. He hurriedly used his soul fire to suppress and protect himself. Chapter 645, Poor Soundproofing. Emo-fan was wailing constantly, but Tangmyo was in a completely different situation. Mochizuki Chiksen looked at Tangmyo here and there. It was unknown whether she was attracted by his beauty or simply worried that he was injured and not noticed. "I'm fine, don't take advantage of me," Tangmyo said as Mochizuki Chiksen kept touching her. "You're annoying. How can I think about those things when you're like this?" Mochizuki Chiksen rolled her eyes at Tangmyo and said, "You didn't think about it, but I'm not unconscious." Tangmyo said this at us feebly. Mochizuki Chiksen was a little embarrassed, and it was only at this time that she noticed that the little bad guy was in a state of high morale, as if he was provoked. "Not now, you're too weak." Although Mochizuki Chiksen was greedy, she still knew how to feel sorry for him. "I'm weak, but you're not. Do it yourself." Tangmyo didn't mean to do that, but it's not impossible to enjoy it occasionally. "Don't do it." Mochizuki Kyanksen was a little entangled, but before she could finish her words, she felt a big hand pressing on the back of her head, and then everything happened naturally. The woman who used to be very proud and arrogant, now in front of Tangmyo, she can't be proud at all. That really makes her dare not squat. Emo-fan's painful roar, scolding and other sounds that came out at the wrong time almost made the people waiting outside the house dumbfounded. Especially Emo-fan, who was acting as a guinea pig, almost cursed Tangmyo to break. Is this something that a person can do? The younger brother is suffering from purgatory here, and the older brother is actually next door. And he is seriously injured. It's too much. In fact, this really can't be blamed on Tang Mao. How could he know that the sound insulation here is so poor? As for him being able to hear Mo fans roar, it is naturally because of his strong mental strength. He didn't think about the problem of sound insulation at all. In the yard, a thick layer of ice had appeared under Muningsu's feet at some point. As the high and undulating sound came, she could hardly control her emotions. She wanted to draw the bow now. Zhao Manan retreated in a panic. Of course he moved little by little. He didn't want to be affected. Kaokinkin had never seen such a scene before. Most importantly, she couldn't imagine that this was something her arrogant teacher could do. Boom. At this moment, a red light suddenly emanated from the room. The moment the red light emanated, Mo Fan completely lost his voice, and the burning sensation in the red light almost made them sweat profusely. The next moment, the red light shot up into the sky, and the whole room was on fire. Then, Sake rushed out of the burning room carrying Mubei and cursing. "This damn bastard, I'm not done with you." Sake continued to curse after rushing out. It seemed that he was angry. At the same time, Tang Mao and Mochizuki Kyankson also limped out of the flames. After all, Tang Mao had not recovered yet, but fortunately, the flames did not cause any harm to him, so he was not ignited. "Master, what's going on?" Muningsu ignored Tang Mao and Mochizuki Kyankson, and then looked at Sake and asked. Of course, it can be seen that Mubei did not seem to be as hot as before. Your perverted friend is right. Although the impact of the flame force in this kid's body is very painful, it is indeed a huge amount of energy. And that bastard is really strong-willed. He actually held on and turned the energy into power, breaking through the super level of fire in one fell swoop. Sake said, and suddenly got angry, but I didn't expect that this bastard boy would be so ungrateful. I helped him break through the super level, and he actually burned my house. Maybe he can't control his own power. Muningsu explained, and then said, what about Mubei? Sake threw Mubei to Kaokinkin, and then said, I tried to use my method to treat him, but I don't know why. After the rescue, he didn't show any signs of waking up. Moreover, no matter how much power I input into him, he seemed to be shackled, and didn't respond at all. Zhao Manan immediately doubted whether this old devil was deliberately torturing them. Sake seemed to see his doubts, and then a healing spirit floated out and entered Mubei's body. However, Mubei still looked pale, without any change. As for what the old man said, it was obvious that only the healing magician could feel it. If you still want to save him, then you have to go to Parthenon. However, Parthenon is not a place that everyone can help. Sake continued. Well, you may not have much face if you go to Parthenon. But if we go, even the goddess will personally welcome us. At this time, Mo Fan, who had completely absorbed the fire attribute magic energy, walked out of the black reef-like house and said, you bastard, you dare to come out. Sake was almost instantly furious when he saw Mo Fan. After all, in so many years, this was the first time someone dared to burn his house. Old man, you were cruel to me before, we are even now. Mo Fan had broken through the fire superclass at this time, and had become a dual-class superclass magician. He was very happy and obviously didn't care about the previous things. As for burning the house, he really didn't mean it. After all, the energy of the flame was too fierce. If he was forced to absorb it, even if he had the protection of the demonic physique, he would not be able to hold on, and he would end up like this. Let's set off now without further delay, Zhao Manan suggested. Muningsu glanced at Tang Mao, and then said, you and Mo Fan take Mubei with you. I'm going to find Xiao Yu. Tang Mao also said at this time, then Xiao Yu will be left to you. I'll go with them. Why don't you take this opportunity to linger in the gentle land? Muningsu said in a low voice. Tang Mao was stunned, a little confused. Wang Gaiu Kyankson was a little shy. Of course, Tang Mao still felt that a master level person like this must have a very good soundproof residence. Mubei is from Ryuksu New City, that is, my brother. If he gets into trouble, how can you let me rest in peace? Tang Mao continued. Hearing this, several people looked at each other with contempt. What were you doing when Mubei didn't know whether to live or die just now? Question mark. Chapter 646, Self-Centered. Tang Mao, Emo-fan, and Zao Manan also moved quickly. After Sake touched an ice silkworm in Mubei's body, he protected his heart meridian, and they boarded the plane to Athens. Muningsu, Wangayu Kayangsan, Kao Kinkin, Wangayu Mingjian, and several high-level mages he brought with him went to the volcanic islands again, because Muningsu wanted to find Xiaoyu's trace. Muningsu still held a glimmer of hope in her heart. After all, Xiaoyu was not only a capable assistant, but also a sister who got along very well with her. Athens, Parthenon. After Mubei was settled in the recuperation forest, Xingxia was already waiting there. There was no one around except the old follower Tata. She naturally received the news that Emo-fan and the others were coming early, so she sent someone to greet them and gave them a pass. The Parthenon is not a place that can be entered casually. At least in Tang Mao's current state, it is definitely impossible to enter it. After Xingxia took the job, Tang Mao went to find Ashiruaya. After all, he was like rusty now, and his magic power was too depleted, and his body was dry. He urgently needed Ashiruaya, the little fox, to replenish his water. Ashiruaya seemed to have learned about Tang Mao's situation, and picked him up on the way to her residence. In Parthenon, even Xingxia maintained a trace of pride as a goddess, and never personally received anyone on the way, even Emo-fan. Of course, she didn't care about these, but the people around her needed her to be more noble, and Emo-fan could understand. Therefore, Tang Mao, who received this treatment, was still the first person to come to Parthenon. As soon as Ashiruaya came, her unique fragrance of bathing in roses all year round rushed over, and Tang Mao immediately felt itchy. It's time, but you still don't change your bad habits. Ashiruaya naturally noticed Tang Mao's abnormality, and scolded him with satisfaction. Stop talking nonsense, fast girl. It's my turn. He really didn't like the feeling that his magic power was almost dried up, and recovered very slowly. Of course, the reason why the magic power recovered slowly was naturally because the backlash of the demons still existed. Otherwise, his magic power would have recovered at least half of the various systems now. What's your attitude? Who am I to you? Ashiruaya said dissatisfiedly. Let's figure out who is the one asking for help now. You, Tang Mao, come to me and beg me, and you look like a big shot. Did I owe you in my last life? Hearing this, Tang Mao thought so too, and said again, or I can pay with my body. You are compensating me? Ashiruaya rolled her eyes at Tang Mao and said, that's nonsense, it's not just me who enjoys it. Bah. Shameless. Ashiruaya obviously didn't believe it. At this time, the two also came to her residence. After arriving here, Ashiruaya first used medicine to treat Tang Mao's external injuries and some internal injuries. The medicine produced by Parthenon is indeed awesome. The recovery speed is also extremely fast. However, if a magician does not have magic power, it is ultimately a temporary solution. Moreover, the backlash of the devil can only be solved by replenishing one's own magic power. And the place where magic power can be restored fastest is naturally Ashiruaya. The treasure in her hand is absolutely the best in the world. Why does it seem that there is a backlash of dark energy in your body? Ashiruaya asked in confusion. After using the medicine, I encountered a terrifying big demon and forced myself to pretend. Tang Mao shrugged. Ashiruaya sighed slightly and said nothing more. Then, she took out her magic weapon from her chest. The next moment, a ray of light lit up, and then Tang Mao felt that her nearly dried up sea of stars and galaxies were restored at this moment. This speed is really fast. Tang Mao, who was enjoying the magic energy that was constantly pouring into his body, looked at Ashiruaya, who was a little pale, and said, you don't have to rush to help me recover, just take your time. Looking at her like this, she must be consuming magic energy to guide herself again. If this goes on, she might have to rest for several days again. He is not in a hurry anyway, just recover slowly. Hearing this, Ashiruaya looked at Tang Mao and said, are you sure? The fox eyes that seemed to be able to seduce people looked at him, and for a moment Tang Mao forgot to think and nodded subconsciously. And Ashiruaya immediately stopped helping Tang Mao to recover quickly. Hey, I told you not to help me recover quickly, but I didn't ask you to stop. Tang Mao suddenly felt that the magic energy seemed to have not recovered, and he was immediately dissatisfied. That's how fast it will help you recover without me doing anything. Ashuriya seemed to have guessed what would happen, and said with a hint of playfulness, I didn't expect that you would feel sorry for me. Tang Mao felt that he was a bit careless. But he didn't understand. In the original Guofu competition, didn't Ashuriya quickly help Emofan and others recover most of their magic power? And that's not just one or two people, that's a whole team of Huaxia Guofu. In fact, her baby didn't change. What changed was that Tang Mao had too many Xinghe, and he had more blue tubes than others. Now he is super class, and there are so many systems to recover, so it's naturally different. Especially the summoning system and the shadow system. While recovering him, he also needs to nourish the shadow evil lord, snow girl, flame princess, Ziohei, and wind princess. The magic energy they have to absorb is not less than the reserve of one Xinghe. After all, the weakest Zhao Fengji is at the commander level, so how can the magic energy consumption be small? Well, I don't think you're doing anything dangerous. You can recover after a few days of rest. You should work harder. Tang Mao had no choice but to change his previous statement. HMPH, scumbag. Although Ashuriya despised him, she continued to input energy into Tang Mao. That's right, in Parthenon, she was safe without magic energy, to rest for some time. However, Tang Mao was obviously different from her. Without magic energy here, it would be like leaving herself in a desperate situation. This is why she went to pick up Tang Mao in person. She was afraid that someone would know that he was seriously injured and it would be bad for him. A thoughtful woman always thinks more. At least Tang Mao didn't think about this. He has been a little conceited recently. In his current state, he is really not suitable to come to Parthenon. Ashuriya's originally pale face turned red in an instant. Don't move, I can't concentrate on recovering you. Tang Mao also felt that his recovery speed had just paused for a while, and he immediately became honest. Chapter 647, The Dark King Intercepts. Although he thought so in his heart, his hand always had its own ideas. However, in order to recover as soon as possible, he still forced himself to calm down. Ashuriya's magic energy replenishment finally did not stop. When Tang Mao's strength recovered more than half, it suddenly stopped again. He looked up in confusion, only to see Ashuriya's figure shaking, and he buried his head directly in it. It smells so good. Slowly helping her up, Tang Mao asked in confusion, is it so weak? Do you think it's easy to help people quickly restore their magic energy? This is loaded with the magic energy I restored twice. Ashuriya said angrily to Tang Mao, who only knew how to enjoy there and didn't respect her efforts. Oh, then you take a rest and help me restore the remaining half of the magic energy. After Tang Mao hugged her and sat down on the sofa, he continued. Restore the remaining half. Ashuriya was tired just now, and after hearing what Tang Mao said, she widened her eyes. She restored all the magic energy of the magic system twice, but she only filled half of his? Why? You're not going to keep it for the new year? Seeing her surprised look, Tang Mao was somewhat dissatisfied. After all, this woman's attitude is really the same every now and then. Look at this necklace. It's enough for me to restore my magic power twice. I've already given it to you. See if there is any energy left here. Ashuriya took off her necklace from her neck and handed it to Tang Mao. Fuck, your thing is so watery? Tang Mao looked at the necklace in Ashuriya's hand and said with a little disdain. What do you mean my necklace is watery? It's obviously your magic power that is different from that of normal people. In fact, when she helped Tang Mao restore her magic power last time, Ashuriya found something wrong. But she didn't care about this matter, but today, she was really shocked. Tang Mao's magic power seemed to be bottomless. Almost 3 starseas were enough to absorb all the magic power of the necklace. Tang Mao didn't know how to respond for a while. Speaking of which, his mana is indeed more abundant than others, and it is not just ordinary abundance. Well, these are enough for me to resist the backlash. Tang Mao said, is there any quiet and suitable place for meditation? Find one for me. I need to meditate for a while. Wait for me to take a break and take you there. Not only Tangmyo needs to meditate, but Ashiruaya also needs it. What are you waiting for? You show me the way and I will take you there. Tangmyo said, and then hugged her by the waist. Ashiruaya was stunned, and then hurriedly said, what are you doing? If you take me out like this, my image will be ruined. As a goddess, being held by a man on the Parthenon, how can this be allowed? Be confident, baby, the people who follow you never care about these things. Besides, you have never had any image to speak of. Tangmyo actually had a deliberate component. He just wanted to see if this little hoof was willing to be held by him. Can you please stop making trouble? You know, I'm still in the period of fighting for power. At this time, if I go out with you like this, I will lose a lot. It's true that Ashiruaya likes Tangmyo. After all, if she doesn't like him, with her personality, why would she play a flute for him? If she doesn't like him, why should she care so much about his affairs? However, if she loses some support just to show her feelings, then what is she playing for? The status of Wente's adopted daughter is far less high than that of this biological daughter with a soul. Several powerful knights of Parthenon stand behind Yi Xingxia. She is not targeting Yi Xingxia, but she doesn't like her way of dealing with things. As for Yi Xingxia, she doesn't want her to regain power. If you lose it, it's lost. It's enough for me to support you. These words are quite domineering, but Ashiruaya still keeps her sanity. However, for Tangmyo's character, she knows that there is no need for her to continue. Then he said, but we are not going to the same place at all. You need to go to the back mountain, and I'm going to a place that only the goddess can go. I need to rest for a while. Just find someone to lead you. Tangmyo was still thinking about having a zero boundary contact with Ashiruaya during the period of retreat, but now it seems that there is no chance. You bad guy, don't even think about getting me before you meet my requirements. After Ashiruaya comforted Tangmyo, she teased him again. She didn't need to think about it. She knew what this impatient man was thinking of taking her to retreat. Pa, as if no one cares. Tangmyo said nonchalantly. Of course, if it weren't for the soft place that kept changing shape, Ashiruaya might really believe it. A man who says one thing and means another. After leaving Ashiruaya's residence, he was taken to the place where he had retreated after receiving the God Seal praise ceremony. Although the recovery speed of magic power is still not fast enough, it is obviously much stronger than before. At least the magic power has begun to be replenished in the galaxies and seas of stars. Although the backlash of the devil still exists, it is not so strong for Tangmyo. Tangmyo was in seclusion, while Emofan and Zaomanine also learned that Mubei seemed to be invaded by the power of darkness. This made the two of them dumbfounded. After all, the wounds in Mubei's body, that is the power of the fire system? Yi Xingxia couldn't give the two people a prepared answer immediately, and the followers around Xingxia said that she should not act recklessly, so Emofan and Zaomanine had to leave first. The next day, Emofan and Zaomanine learned that Mubei was locked up in the Dark Plane. Who would have thought that he had been rescued, but was suddenly intercepted by the Dark King? However, even if the Dark King wanted to replenish the power of his plane and find some powerful and outstanding magicians, he had to take them away because of the people who were cured by black magic, right? Then what about Mubei? Yi Xingxia said that they could only ask Tangmyo about this matter. After all, besides Mubei, he was the only one in the volcano islands at that time. Tangmyo had gone to find Ashiruaya since he came yesterday. The two felt that it was a question whether he was still alive or not. After all, in his current state, he might not be able to withstand Ashiruaya's seductive power, right? However, although they thought so, the matter at the moment concerned Mubei's life and death, so they still went to where Ashiruaya was. Chapter 648, Island on the Sea. After Yi Xingxia and the other two came to Ashiruaya's residence, they found out that Tangmyo and Ashiruaya had gone to practice meditation yesterday. In fact, whether she came to find Tangmyo or not, Yi Xingxia was sure that Mubei's soul was taken away by the Dark King. No matter why he was taken away, if she wanted to save him, she had to find a way to see the Dark King. Even if it was the Dark King's clone, the Dark King belonged to another plane. he could easily come to this plane, which could only mean that his power had reached a more terrifying level. But if they wanted to see the Dark King, there was almost no way to find it. In the following time, they had almost no other way except waiting. Japan, volcanic islands. The day we left, those firebirds flew in this direction. Mochizuki Kyankson pointed to the place where she last saw the firebirds flying and said to Muningsu, "Now 5 days have passed. Even if she is willing to save Shaoyu, the sassy girl, the chance is obviously slim. Let's go and see." Although Muningsu knew that it was more dangerous than good, what if there was a miracle? Shaoyu is not only her right-hand man, but also a close friend. So, even if there is no possibility, she still came. Wang Guimingjian said that he would be on guard here, and if there is anything, send him a signal. After all, they came by boat, so naturally not all of them can go together. Muningsu did not have any objection to this. After leaving Wang Guimingjian and his 2 men, Muningsu, Wang Kyankson, Kaokinkin and 2 other extras rushed to the periphery together. The road was almost flat, and there was almost no plant cover. However, there were quite a few feather monster corpses along the way. There must be at least hundreds of them. Most of these feather monsters were killed by sound magic, and occasionally a few died from plant magic. Judging from their appearance, they had obviously been dead for 4 or 5 days. As they went deeper, there were fewer and fewer corpses on the road. Maybe later on, Shaoyu's magic power was also exhausted. In this case, she was almost like a fish on the chopping board. Without magic tools, and no displacement skills, even if Muningsu didn't want to believe it, she had to accept this reality. Because there was no land in front of her, and she was in front of the sea. Even if she avoided the pursuit of the feather monster, and fled into the sea, without magic power, and after so many days, her fate was still the same. Kaokinkin was thinking about the past, but suddenly saw a familiar piece of cloth drifting over. Immediately, she used the control of water magic to absorb the cloth in her hands. This seems to be Sister Shaoyu's clothes. Come quickly. After Kaokinkin took the cloth in her hand, she shouted hurriedly. Hearing this, Muningsu and Wang Kyankson came over. Wang Kyankson also immediately confirmed that this was indeed the clothes Shaoyu wore that day, and Muningsu saw the word "Save Me" written on it, and a picture of the mountain. Immediately, 6 wings appeared behind Muningsu, and then she rose directly to a high altitude. Seeing Muningsu suddenly take off, Wang Kyankson and Kaokinkin were confused. At this time, Kaokinkin looked at the cloth in her hand, and found that there were 2 words "Save Me" on it. Moreover, she was not unfamiliar with these words, which were written by Shaoyu. After observing in the air, Muningsu saw several islands in the sea not far away. After landing, Muningsu said, "Shaoyu may not be dead, but I think she has encountered some trouble. There are several islands in the sea ahead. Let's go and take a look. Then I will notify Wang Kyankson." Was thinking about notifying Wang Guimingjian, but Muningsu shook her head and then looked at Wang Guimingjian's 2 men and said, "Please call Mr. Wang Guimingjian to come here to meet us, and we will go to the island over there to find someone." Muningsu didn't have the patience to wait for Wang Guimingjian here. As for sending a distress signal, if they encountered something on the island, wouldn't they be in danger? Although her fighting ability is not weak, who knows what will happen in such a ghost place. The strength of Wang Guimingjian is definitely a great help. If they really encounter any trouble, it will be safe with him to help them. The 2 looked at Wang Kyankson, and although she didn't know what the little girl was thinking, she still agreed. Muningsu is the mistress of Yuxunyu City now. If she wants to find that unfaithful man in the future, it will not be good for her to go to his territory and not give him face now. After the 2 left, Muningsu stepped into the sea. In an instant, a layer of ice condensed on the sea surface under her feet. Kaokinkin saw that there was a road emerging, so she followed it directly. Wang Kyankson also has her pride, and naturally she will not rely on Muningsu to walk on the sea. The water system is under her control, and it is like a sea wind and fire wheel, quickly taking her to catch up with Muningsu and the others. The 3 of them soon saw the first island, but it seemed that there was no sign of Shaoyu except for some sea monsters. Because of the search for Shaoyu, they also triggered a battle here. Although these sea monsters were all younger brothers, there were too many of them, and they had to find someone, so they had to flee. These ignorant sea monsters, if I hadn't been busy, I would have killed them all. After leaving the first island, Wangayu Kyanksen was still angry. It seemed that she was provoked. Muningsu rushed to the next island. She was more anxious to find Xiaoyu than being angry. When they arrived at the second island, they suddenly found that there was a woman sitting on the edge of the island. Although the woman was a little embarrassed, there were only 2 pieces of cover on her body, and there was almost nothing else. But even though the woman looked embarrassed, she still made the 3 women's eyes light up. Xiaoyu, Sister Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, who was being controlled here, thought she was hallucinating when she heard someone calling her. And when she saw Muningsu rushing over, she realized that she was not hallucinating. This was real. Muningsu. She looked at the woman running towards her with a little disbelief. It would be a lie to say that she was not moved. After all, Muningsu should be in New City now. She didn't expect that she would come here to find her. However, Xiaoyu soon thought of something and shouted hurriedly, "Don't step into the range of this island." Chapter 649. Xiaoyu is still alive. Muningsu almost flew over the island, but stopped in a hurry after hearing Xiaoyu shout. She was not an impulsive person. Since Xiaoyu had sent out a call for help, and was now in a hurry, it was obvious that this place was not simple. However, she did not expect that this island was not simple. Question mark? There is something wrong with this island. Once you enter, you can't leave. Xiaoyu was relieved when she saw Muningsu stop, and then explained. How did you avoid the attack of the feather demon and come here? Muningsu asked. When my magic power was exhausted, I fell into the sea. Then when I woke up, I was here. Moreover, my magic power was restored, and the bottleneck that I could not break through for a long time was successfully broken through. However, when I wanted to leave, I found that I couldn't get out at all. Xiaoyu explained. This island is very magical. You can enter but not leave. Moreover, it also has a restorative effect. As for the breakthrough, it should be because after escaping death, the magic energy was suddenly sufficient again after being exhausted, and her sound system had been silent for too long, and this magical island must have given her a boost. But after being grateful, Xiaoyu was full of helplessness. Because here you can only come in, you can't go out at all. If you live in this uninvited island for a lifetime, Xiaoyu feels that it is better to die. After a few days, she was almost crazy. Muningsu was a little curious, so she slowly approached. Xiaoyu hurriedly said, don't come in. But, just when Muningsu was about to approach, a trembling sound suddenly came out. After the sound came out, it was almost full of repulsive energy. Muningsu reacted quickly enough, but was still repelled by our force. Xiaoyu looked at the scene in front of her, and was almost a little dumbfounded. And Wangayu Kyanksen and Kyokinkin who came later also immediately became alert. Are you okay? Wangayu Kyanksen looked at Muningsu and asked. Muningsu shook her head, and said to Xiaoyu, leave here, I'll try to break it open by force. I've tried it. The invisible wall here seems to contain a strong spatial force. There's no way to break it open by force. Xiaoyu shook her head and said, what's going on? Wangayu Kyanksen had just arrived, and didn't know what happened. Kyokinkin was also confused. There's something strange about this island. Muningsu responded in a calm voice. After she finished speaking, she jumped into the air again, and then the power of the ice element spread around her. In an instant, the warm sea water here began to freeze. Xiaoyu wanted to say something, but after seeing that the ice layer had begun to spread around, she had to shut up. In fact, she also wanted to try to see if the island could be broken from the outside. Otherwise, how could she keep asking for help? Ice crystal bow. Muningsu didn't think about making any attempts, and took out her strongest means as soon as she got started. After absorbing a lot of power, the power of this bow has increased several times. In addition, she is now a super class mage. The power of this arrow is definitely a very strong destructive force even among super class mages. Xiaoyu, who was behind the shield, was almost knocked back in an instant. She didn't have much hope at first, but now it seems that this is not the case. But, The two forces kept colliding, and the white light appeared on the wall, and frost formed from time to time, but it soon dispersed. It seemed that the power was still a little short. Swoosh. At this moment, Muningsu, who was behind, suddenly pulled the bow and released an arrow. Muningsu's 2 consecutive arrows were extremely costly. After all, Tang Mao's ice system was no longer enough to suppress her bow. Fortunately, she could still withstand it and would not faint because of these 2 arrows. Crack, crack, crack. After the second arrow was released, thick frost immediately formed on the colorless wall. When the frost wrapped everything inside, there was a crack sound. Exclamation mark. Boom boom. At this time, the whole island suddenly shook. Under the constant shaking, the island suddenly began to rise. Bang, bang, bang. Then, suddenly, white furry pillars that reached the sky exploded and appeared on the nearby islands. Fortunately, when it was washed away here, Xiaoyu ran out. Otherwise, this strange white furry pillar would probably take her to the sky, right? Oh my god, what is this? Kaokinkin muttered in shock after taking a piece of clothing for Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu only had 2 pieces at the moment, so she naturally didn't pick anything and put them on. Well, why is it so tight? Kinkin, aren't you feeling tight? After Xiaoyu put on the clothes, she felt a little suffocated. Kaokinkin, who was staring at the strange pillar in a daze just now, instantly had a dead fish eye when she heard Xiaoyu's words. This is already the biggest one for me. Okay. Who told you to be so well nourished? Looking down at herself, Kaokinkin snorted. Leave here first. I feel something is wrong. Muningsu said hurriedly after seeing Xiaoyu coming out. The moment the pillar rushed out, Muningsu felt a strong demonic energy. Of course, it was not just her. Wang Kaiangson also noticed it. After all, she guarded the Shuangshao pavilion all year round, and she was not just guarding the prisoners. After saying that, they began to return the same way. And just as the 4 women were running along the ice surface suddenly broke. Crash. After the ice broke, a total of 9 islands nearby began to explode one by one. Exclamation mark. Chapter 650. Another big monster. When the 9 islands destroyed the 5 islands, Moonwatching Sword and his younger brother also rushed over. Not far away, he also sensed a strong demonic aura and rushed over. Before Moonwatching Sword rushed over, the seawater suddenly rose. Roar, roar, roar. After the seawater fell straight down, the head of the giant shadow emerging from the water also appeared. Only a head emerged, but it seemed to be no different from the body of a commander-level demon. This Moonwatching Sword was completely dumbfounded. He was indeed an extremely powerful superclass magician, but the strongest creature he had witnessed was only a monarch demon. But the creature in front of him, he could be sure, was definitely not a monarch. This behemoth was definitely more terrifying than a monarch-level creature, which means that this thing might be the legendary emperor. Exclamation mark. The Dragon King looked at Moonwatching Sword, and the only remaining eye was still full of disdain. Human, get out of here, or you will die. The next moment, it spoke in human language. The huge sound made Wang Mingjian and Muningsu feel dizzy. Fortunately, everyone present was strong enough to avoid being knocked unconscious. Looking at the huge monster in front of him, Wang Mingjian swallowed his saliva and said politely, Master Demon God, we have no intention of offending you. We are here only to find someone. We will leave now. Get out. The Dragon King roared, but it was just a verbal threat, and he did not mean to attack them. Bang. At the same time, another island exploded. After Muningsu and others joined Wang Mingjian and others, they turned around and left. Of course, they were not prepared at all. Everyone knew that it would take no effort for such a demon that only existed in legends to deal with them, the superclass mages. Although they didn't know why the other party would let them go, since they had found Xiaoyu and there was no danger. Who would think about it? Xiaoyu couldn't help but look back while running. The huge demon didn't look at them, but went to the pillars that soared into the sky. It seemed that the island was really extraordinary. Otherwise, this kind of big demon would never let them go. With this powerful mental attack, they could easily kill them, right? However, the other party didn't. Instead, the moment they left, they went to the island. Xiaoyu, what are you doing? Hurry up. Muningsu saw Xiaoyu still looking behind. so she shouted hurriedly. Whether it was the pillar that suddenly soared into the sky or the one-eyed dragon that appeared later, even if her ice crystal bow could still be used, Muningsu knew very well that it was useless. Look, the dragon didn't chase us, but went to the island where I was before, Xiaoyu said. Seeing that they had slowed down, Wang Gaimingjian's mouth twitched. What are you still doing here, waiting to die? That's a creature we can contend with, why don't you leave? As a famous superclass mage, he felt extremely powerless when he saw a creature like the other party. This child was still watching here? Did he really think they were safe? If a creature of this level wanted to attack them, it would only take a moment for them to rush over. After hearing Wang Gaimingjian's voice with a hint of anger, Wang Gaoqiangsan said, let's go. She was not the kind of ignorant person. Those who could make Wang Gaimingjian so nervous were definitely not something they could easily provoke. Since the other party had no intention of destroying them, it would be better for them to be sensible and leave here. Although Xiaoyu was still very curious, she also knew that, if she didn't leave, once the other party noticed it, it would not be her who would be harmed. At the same time, the Jiaohuang came to an island that was not broken and opened its bloody mouth, as if it wanted to bite the pillar to pieces. Gada. However, this bite was almost like biting into the ice that had been formed for tens of thousands of years. Not only was there no shattering, but a few teeth were even broken. Roar, roar, roar. After the teeth were broken, a cold air spread in its mouth. As powerful as the Jiaohuang, it was actually frozen for a while. If it was at its peak, it would not be frozen so easily. However, it had just been severely injured a few days ago. Otherwise, how could it let the humans go? The reason why it didn't do it was because it realized that there were extremely powerful tonics here, and those humans were almost all strong. So in order to recover itself, it chose to shock them and let them go. But what it didn't expect was that it was just a pillar, and it was powerless. Bang. At the same time, the island suppressed by the 8th pillar was also broken. The aura of the terrifying demon was almost scattered around the entire volcanic islands. For a moment, all the demons nearby trembled. Muningsu and her companions, who had just bypassed the volcanic islands, also felt a sense of fear from the bottom of their hearts at that moment. They were sure that the demon was not from the previous dragon, but from another one. However, they did not know what the other one was and where it was. For 2 whole days, everyone returned to the Xuanshao pavilion without sleep. It was only after returning here that they felt a little sense of security. Muningsu did not stay here for long. There were still many things to do in Yuxu City. The most important thing was that she always felt that the next few days in R were not safe. She had a lot of things to do at home, so she naturally would not choose to stay here. Wang Gaimingjian did not care about their stay or departure. After returning, he plunged into the library of Xuanshao Pavilion. He wanted to figure out what that pillar that shot up into the sky was. After all, it was too close to R, although, at the speed of a superclass mage, it would take 1 or 2 days to travel there, but for an emperor, it would probably take more than a day, right? Regardless of whether the other party had any ideas about them or not, knowing yourself and the enemy will ensure victory in 100 battles. Mochizuki Kayangsan actually wanted to go see Tang Mao, but the current situation did not allow her to leave. This was her home after all, and she needed to stay to deal with any danger. P.S. This chapter was written before 0 o'clock, and the next chapter will be tomorrow. Rewards and additional chapters will also have to be tomorrow. I'm too tired today. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.